Oh, let's go. Oh, you messed with the wrong person, bro. There we go.
Thank you for your patronage.
Thank you!
What's up, guys, and welcome back to another episode of Mentally Gone Reacts. My name is Callie Lacerda.
And I'm Gabriela Lopes.
And today I want to show you guys my socks before we get into it. To all my Brazilian people out there, Brazilian and Portuguese people, I am wearing Fernando Pessoa, socks by Fernando Pessoa with a quote, and I'm going to read it out loud real quick in Portuguese. Valeu a pena, tudo vale a pena, se a alma não é pequena.
Uau!
Tudo vale a pena se a alma não é pequena.
E bem-vindos ao nosso canal.
Bem-vindo ao canal. Fala, galera. Não. Fala, galera.
Fala aí, galera.
Fala, galera. Bem-vindo ao canal Mentally Gone Reacts.
Anyways,
so welcome back, guys, to the Game of Thrones journey. Today we will be reacting and discussing Game of Thrones Season 1, Episode 4, called Cripples, Bastards, and
Broken Things.
And
And we know that Bran is a cripple, Jon is a bastard, and
Yes.
there's a lot of broken things.
and everybody's broken in this.
Yeah, and Bran's legs are broken.
True.
Poor thing.
Unfortunately, yeah.
Just to recap quickly on the last episode, the way that it ended, Arya was practicing sword fighting, and then also Ned was watching, and you could tell that he's having like PTSD hearing the swords clanking, even though they were using wooden sticks.
I know, like he was hearing metal clanking in the background, which was very, very interesting, like very cool
Yeah.
visuals.
But now we're getting into this one. Bran is awake, right?
He says that he doesn't remember anything, which is convenient.
Yeah. What else? I think that's it. We'll just see. Like,
Yes.
Jon's at the wall.
Jon's at the wall. Jon told Tyrion, because Tyrion's heading back to King's Landing. He's taking that other guy that he had a drink with along with him, showing him the noble lifestyle of royalty, kind of spoiling him a little bit. And then on his way back to King's Landing, Jon asked if he's going to stop by Winterfell, and he said that, yeah, because there aren't that many luxurious inns on the way from the wall to King's Landing, so he has no other choice.
Yeah.
And then Jon told him to basically say what's up to Bran, because he left when Bran was still unconscious.
And then Daenerys is pregnant. And yeah, that's pretty much our little
she's
recap.
Pregnant?
Yeah.
How did we find out again? I forgot.
They said that she was like, it's gonna be a boy.
Oh, I see.
To Khal Drogo.
And when she showed up in the last episode, she was in the... Could you guys clarify for me, please, if she was in the middle of like fields of weed? Because those look like weed plants. Come on, right?
Yeah, it did look. I forgot about that. That was funny.
But that was the main scene with her, right? Is that she kind of stood up to her brother.
Oh yeah, and then they were like, "Should we kill him?"
Yeah,
and then
like, what do we do with him?
Showed mercy.
Yeah, which they found completely foreign. Like they're like, oh, this girl's weird. She compassion. What is that?
I wonder if they're gonna like question her authority because of that, or if she's gonna, still assert herself.
Yes.
But yeah, let's get into it. I'm excited.
So let's just jump right into it, guys. As always, you guys know the rules. We have our handy dandy notepads because this is Blue's Clues 4.
Mine is
Blue's Clues 4.
For adults.
Adults. Okay.
I did it this time.
Yeah.
Ashley's not taking my job.
All right. So this is Blue's Clues for adults, where we will be taking. Yes.
What do you mean?
You could be a little faster next time. When I say Blue's Clues, you
I
say
needed
4.
water. There's like a. I'm so
There's like a
excited. There's
frog.
like phlegm in my throat.
Phlegm. Yeah. So yeah, that's it. Right? So we jump in?
Yeah, that's it.
So with that being said, guys, early access and full uncut reactions available exclusively on Patreon. Special thank you to all the patrons out there. We started an exclusive Patreon community group chat where we have been checking daily. That's a place where we can all talk to each other about anything and everything. It's kind of like a little hub that we're trying to create.
Yeah,
right?
we sent, today we sent a picture of our dog Shadow into the chat. So we are planning to, just give you a little insight and window into our everyday lives a little bit, talk, chat, send some pictures, some fun little whatevers. And and
Yeah.
also just, if you guys ever need to talk to us too, that's what we're here for. And just create a friendship and community, and that's it.
That's it. So that's exclusively available on Patreon. Special thank you to all the patrons out there. You do have to have your own official copy, but then we provide the timestamps where you can link up your copy with our copy, and you can watch along with us as if we're watching it together in the same room. And what else am I remember? And yeah, today's Monday. So every single day we're going to record something. You can expect content, a lot of great stuff, a lot of things planned for this channel. And thank you again for sticking around, because I know that a lot of you guys have been around since the conception of the channel, since its birth, right?
Yeah.
And we are grateful for that.
Yeah.
Right?
That's it. Let's
All right.
go.
So with that being said, I'm going to do a 5-second countdown for the people on Patreon, and then I will be pressing play. I'm a little
A little shaky.
I got to say those tongue twisters, those like warm-up exercises.
Peter Pepper picked the peck of pick
Peter
peppers.
Pepper. Great job.
Picked the peck of pick pep.
Oh.
Oh.
Oh, it changed a little bit. You saw? Look.
What? How do you notice? I don't even notice.
Because I remember that there was an animal fighting the dragon in the beginning. And now there's like a little different thing.
I like this little tune.
Yeah, this theme song is pretty catchy.
This is nice. I need this as my ringtone.
I know.
It's like, hello? I would let it play the whole thing before I pick up the phone.
Just let it go to voicemail every time. Look, see, there's a dragon, lions.
I think people said that it doesn't change too much, but if they show new locations, it'll show up on the map.
Yes.
So it seems like it's the same locations.
And we had a comment of somebody saying that, what's the point of me taking notes if I don't remember Robert Baratheon's name?
And
then I was
Catelyn.
like, sheesh, man. Sorry, Mom.
I know.
God, I'm trying my best.
Relax, all right?
I'm sorry. Guys, I have the worst memory on planet Earth. Like, you guys have no clue. I can't really remember things too good.
Got
That's
flashback.
That's like a crow? Because we hear those every day when we go on a walk.
Yeah. I always confuse ravens and crows. I don't know what the difference is.
Yeah, how could you tell the difference? I don't know. Oh, shit.
I thought I saw an eyeball on its head. I was
Oh
like,
my
is its
God.
eyes just weird?
The little lord's
That's
been
3 eyes?
dreaming again.
Yeah. Oh, it was a dream.
I see. Oh, this lady with the stories. She has the best stories ever.
Anyway, you don't have a choice. Rob's
I
waiting.
don't want to go.
Neither do I. But Rob's Lord of Winterfell. It means I do what he says and you do what I say.
Oh, I see.
So Rob stayed.
Help Bran down the hall.
Hold on.
Does he speak or does he just say his name?
Say I received a slightly warmer welcome on my last visit.
Any man of the Night's Watch is welcome at Winterfell. I'm Lord of Winterfell while my father is away.
And you might learn a lord's courtesy.
Oh, look, I think that's...
Do you like to ride, Bran?
Yes.
The boy has lost the use of his legs.
With the right horse and saddle, even a cripple can ride.
I'm not a cripple.
Then I'm not a dwarf. My father will rejoice to hear it. He'll provide the rest. You must shape the horse to the rider. Start with a yearling and teach it to respond to the reins and to the boy's voice.
Oh, this is like a custom saddle.
Ooh, wow.
On horseback, you'll be as tall as any of them.
Why do you want to help him?
I have a tender spot in my heart for cripples, bastards, and broken things.
Oh, there you go. That's the title.
There's a brothel outside your walls. There I'll find a bed, and both of us can sleep easier.
Couldn't resist some northern art. You like redheads? Ask for Rod.
Where is Lady Stark? Why didn't she receive me? She's not in Winterfell, is she? Where did she go?
The lady's whereabouts.
Lady, your loyalty to your captors is touching. How do you think Balin Greyjoy would feel if he could see his only surviving son has turned black?
What? He's a captive?
I believe your uncles were responsible.
Must have been a pretty sight.
Nothing prettier than watching sailors burn alive. Shame how it all turned out.
We were outnumbered 10 to 1.
A stupid rebellion, then.
Oh.
I suppose your father realized that when your brothers died in battle. I'm a constant disappointment to my own father, and I've learned to live with it. Your next tumble with Rawls is on me. I'll try not to wear her out.
What the...
I don't know. I thought that this guy was like brothers or something.
Oh, yeah, I thought he was like part of their, at least part of their, home here.
He's the guy from John Wick.
Yeah, he is.
Which a person asked, like, how do you know, like, who that is in John Wick? It's because my sister used to have a wallpaper with, like, multiple like, Game of Thrones stuff, and she would swap them out. And she had one of that guy.
Tell them your name. Samuel Tarley of Hornhill. I've come to take the black.
Come to take the black pudding? Well, you couldn't be any worse than you look.
I've heard that name, Tarley, though. Didn't King Baratheon say that he killed a Tarley boy? That was his first murder?
Oh, yeah.
Right? It was Tarley or something?
Yeah, you're right.
Please, no more! On your feet. Till he finds his feet.
No.
Damn. Let the man up.
Stop.
Sure, the poachers and thieves down south. Now they send us squealing bloody pigs.
Damn, bro. What the heck?
He yielded. All right then, Lord Snow. You wish to defend your lady love. 3 of you ought to be sufficient to make Lady Piggy squeal. All you gotta do is get past the bastard.
You sure you want to do this?
They don't have a choice.
Silly choices.
Oh, let's go. Yield.
Smart man.
We're done for today. Go clean the armory. That's all you're good for.
This guy's fun at parties, huh?
My mother calls me Sam.
It's not going to get any easier, you know. You're going to have to defend yourself.
Why didn't you get up and fight? I wanted to. I just couldn't. Why not? I'm a coward.
He's pretty self-aware.
The wall's no place for cowards.
Well, you're right. I'm sorry. He wanted to thank you.
Oh, is this the birth of a friendship?
Aww.
People saw us talking to him. Now they'll think we're cowards too.
Too stupid to be a coward.
You're too stupid to be a... Quick now, before summer's over.
Yeah, they don't seem like they have too many brain cells, the people here, huh? On the wall. Like, Jon seems the only one who's kind of grounded in some form of... I don't know. I don't know how to put my finger on it. They don't seem like they're very sharp.
Kind of broken.
Yeah, broken things on the wall over there. Oh, look, the horse people. They eat horse and they worship the horse.
Ooh. That's a pretty nice landscape.
Oh, I wonder if they have like a fixed kingdom. I guess we'll find out because we've only seen them in the nomad, like as nomads.
Mud and shit and twigs. Best these savages can do.
These are my people now. You shouldn't call them savages.
I'll call them what I like because they're my people. This is my army. Khal Drogo's marching the wrong way with my army.
Oh, this guy needs to go to sleep. Oh, it's a pretty decent little town. I wouldn't mind living in a place like this. Open landscape.
If my brother was given an army of Dothraki, could you conquer the 7 kingdoms?
The Dothraki have never crossed the narrow sea. They fear any water their horses can't drink.
But if they did...
Wow, they fear any
King
water.
Robert is fool enough to meet them in open battle. But the men advising him are different.
And you know these men.
I fought beside them once. Now Ned Stark wants my head. He drove me from my land. Aye.
Why?
Rough past.
I'd no money and an expensive wife.
Where is she now?
In another place with another man.
Aw.
Aw, shoot. Gold digger.
Your Grace.
Oh, it's the girl.
We'll call you the last
Oh,
dragon.
it's the same one? The last dragon.
You have dragon's blood in your veins.
Well, it's entirely possible.
What happened to the dragon?
Yeah, what happened?
The brave men didn't kill dragons. The brave men rode them. Rode them from Valyria to build the greatest civilization this world has ever seen. The breath of the greatest dragon fought the Iron Throne.
Wow.
Which the usurper is keeping warm for me. The swords of the vanquished melted together like so many candles.
Wow, melted by a dragon.
Dragon's breath. Wow.
There's nothing in the world that I would rather see.
Why dragons?
They can fly, and wherever they are, just a few flaps of their wings and they're somewhere else. And they can kill anyone that tries to hurt them. Gets burned away.
Oh.
Nothing.
You're getting mighty close there. You're going to burn his little hair.
Like so many candles.
Ow.
Yes. Seeing a dragon would make me very happy.
Whoa.
And I have seen things.
What have you seen?
I've seen a man who could change his face the way that other men change their clothes. Have you seen one?
A pirate ship?
A dragon.
No. No, last one died many years before I was born.
Oh, I see.
When I was very young, just 3 or 4, my father used to walk me down the roads, and I'd recite their names for him. When I got them all right, he'd give me a sweet. The ones closest to the door were the last ones they were able to hatch, and they were all stunted and wrong. The skulls, it's no bigger than dog skulls. But as he got closer to the Iron Throne, they got bigger. And bigger. And bigger.
Whoa!
Oh.
He's turning her on.
There was Giscard.
Something else is getting bigger and bigger
Whoa,
and bigger.
Pause.
Meraxes, Vagar, and Balerion the Dread, whose fire forged the 7 kingdoms
Interesting.
into one.
Whose fire forged the 7 kingdoms into one.
What happened to the skulls?
I don't know. Usurper had them smashed to powder, I expect.
In the Red Keep, right? He said.
Yeah.
Teach your sister.
To teach my sister how to be a better lover. You think I bought you to make Khal Drogo happy? Ah, you pretty little idiot.
He gets off on making people uncomfortable. I think that he likes to dangle his power over people.
Of course.
Look, forged by the dragon.
If you only had girls, I suppose the throne would pass to Prince Joffrey's little brother.
And everyone would hate me.
Nobody could ever hate you.
Man.
Joffrey does.
Why would you say such a thing?
But Joffrey's kind of an idiot, so. who
That
cares?
business with the wolves, Sansa. I've told you 100 times, a direwolf
Please
is not...
shut up about it.
Hey, respect your elders.
Who built the Iron Throne?
Aegon the Conqueror.
All right, so
And who built the Red Keep?
Maegor the Cruel.
And how many years did it take to build
My
the Red
grandfather and uncle were murdered here, weren't they?
They were killed on the orders of King Aerys,
The Mad King.
commonly known as the Mad King.
I can't write all this down, guys. It'll take me too
You
much
should
time.
speak to your father about these matters. You will find it in your heart to forgive your father.
No, I won't.
Because her father had to do. You
It's
think he
not his
wanted
fault. It's her fault, kind of.
If you can't keep the king's peace, perhaps the city watch should be commanded by someone who can.
I need more men.
You'll get 50. Lord Baelish will see it paid for.
I will.
You found money for a champion's purse. You'll find money to keep the peace.
to? Oh yeah, they're deeply in debt.
They give the great a chance of glory, and the lowly a respite from their woes.
And every inn in the city is full, and the whores are walking bow-legged.
There's nothing else, my lords.
On his command.
Yeah, where's the king, right? The king's probably eating again.
On days like this, I envy you northerners your summer snows. Till tomorrow, my lord.
I've been hoping to talk to you about Jon Arryn.
His death was a great sadness to all of us.
That's the previous hand.
His sickness struck him very hard and very fast. I saw him in my chambers just the night before he passed.
Sickness.
Kings and hands have come to me for advice since...
What did Jon want?
Oh, he came inquiring after a book.
What book?
I fear it would be of little interest to you, my lord. A ponderous tome.
I'd like to read it.
Yeah, I'd like to read it too.
Ooh.
Ooh, that's. Never mind. I don't want to read it anymore. It's too big. Too much.
With descriptions of many high lords
Lineages.
and noble ladies and their children.
So there's a lot of exposition in this one, a lot of lessons, backstory.
Jon Arryn tell you what he wanted with it?
He did not, my lord. I did not presume to ask.
Jon's death.
Such a tragedy.
Did he say anything to you during his final hours?
There was one phrase he kept repeating. The seed is strong, I think it was.
The seed is strong.
What?
Last words are usually as significant as first words.
And you're quite certain he died of a natural illness?
Well, what else could it be?
Poison.
I don't think it likely. But the hand was loved by all. What sort of man would dare?
I've heard it said that poison is a woman's weapon.
Ooh.
Did you know that Lord Varys is a eunuch?
What's a
Everybody
eunuch?
knows that.
Yes, yes.
I was gonna say that too.
I've taken enough of your time.
No trouble at all, my lord. It's a great honor.
Thank you.
Huh, okay.
This guy was too quick to deny the possibility of sabotage and poison. I don't really trust that old guy.
Where he's just an old, you know.
Syrio says a water dancer can stand on one toe for hours.
It's a hard fall down these steps.
Syrio says every hurt is a lesson, and every lesson makes you better.
It's true.
Now that Bran's awake, will he come live with us?
He needs to get his strength back first.
He wanted to be Knight of the King's Guard. He can't be one now, can he?
No. He could be Lord of a Holdfast. He'll sit on the King's Council, or he might raise castles, like Brandon the Builder.
Brandon the Builder.
Yeah, there's a lot of names they're throwing in this one.
He'll marry a High Lord and rule this castle. And your sons shall be knights and princes and lords.
No, that's not me.
She doesn't want to be like her sister.
Listen to her, Dad. She doesn't want that life.
And her father kind of approves of it. He's kind of smirking. He's kind of like let her do her thing. She doesn't want to be like Sansa.
Maybe it works out better that way.
Yeah.
Sir Alistair said I'm to be your new watch partner.
Oh, no.
I should warn you, I don't see all that well.
He joins the watch.
It's like, what can you do well?
Yeah.
It's warmer. Oh, that's all right. I'm fine.
You're not. You're freezing.
You think he's scared of getting pushed over the wall?
He's scared of everything. Look at him.
I know. I'd be scared too, though. Like,
On the morning of my 18th name day, my father came to me. You're almost a man now, he said, but you're not worthy of my land and title.
No,
What?
And somewhere in these woods, your horse will stumble, and you'll be thrown from your saddle to die. Also, I'll tell your mother, nothing would please me more.
wow.
What? That made me so sad.
So he kind of relates to Jon because Jon's a
Sir Alice
bastard.
is going to make me fight again tomorrow, isn't he?
He's basically a bastard.
Yes, he is.
But Ned Stark didn't.
I'm not going to get any better, you know.
It can't get any worse.
I mean, you could get a little worse, guy.
Not. He's pretty bad.
True.
Poor thing.
Pycelle talks too much.
Oh, he never stops. Do you know Sir Hugh of the Vale?
He already knows?
I'll speak to him.
A singularly bad idea. Do you see that boy there? One of Varys's little birds. The spider has taken a great interest in your comings and goings.
Spider.
Now look, there. That one belongs to the Queen.
Oh my gosh.
And do you see that scepter pretending to read her book?
Wow.
Larissa the Queen.
She's one of mine.
Wow, many
What the
spies.
Oh my god.
Send him to question Sir Hugh. After that, you might want him to visit a certain armorer in the city. He lives in a large house at the top of the Street of Steel. I have my observers, as I said. And it's possible that they saw Lord Aaron visit this armorer several times in the weeks before his death.
Baelish, perhaps I was wrong to distrust you.
Distrusting me was the wisest thing you've done since you climbed off your horse.
Trust nobody.
Ooh.
They have spies and eyeballs everywhere.
Wow.
As you can see, I'm busy.
I'm here on behalf of Lord Eddard Stark, the Hand of the King, and Captain of his Guard. No, sir, not a knight.
It just so happens that I am.
It's all about titles here.
Regret to say, he did not honor me with his patronage.
What did Lord Aaron want?
Always came to see the boy.
I'd like to see him as well.
As you wish, my lord.
Gendry!
Came to see the boy for what? For
Gendry.
weapons?
H.
Works hard. Show the hand the helmet you made, lad.
Ooh, maybe he forged that dagger that they used on Bran.
That would be interesting.
This is fine work.
It's not for sale. Boy, this is the king's hand. If his lordship wants the helmet, I made it for me.
Damn.
When Lord Aaron came to visit you, what would you talk about?
Just ask me questions is all, my lord.
What kind of questions?
About my work first. Then he started asking me about my mother.
What did you sell him?
She died when I was little. She had yellow hair. She'd sing to me sometimes.
Yellow hair. Was she a Lannister, perhaps?
Get back to work, lad.
I don't know what is going on.
If the day ever comes when that boy would rather wield a sword than forge one, you send him to me.
Ooh,
Wants him as a soldier.
nice.
So he made a bull helmet.
King Robert's bastard son.
Oh, because he knows of King Robert's affairs. Just like King Robert knows of his.
Oh,
Lord Stark, should I leave? It was...
Listen.
What's his name? Gendry?
Gendry.
He likes to do this when I'm on duty. Makes me listen as he insults my sister.
Forgive me, my lord.
Why do I have to forgive you? Have you wronged me?
The siege of Pike. We fought side by side one afternoon.
That's where you got your scar.
Aye. One of the Greyjoys nearly took my eye.
Vicious sons of
They like the bloodshed.
They stopped liking it at the end.
Oh, they keep...
So there was a battle against the Greyjoys.
Charging through the breach.
With his burning sword. I'll remember that till the day I die.
I saw the youngest of the Greyjoy lads at Winterfell. It was like seeing a shark on a mountaintop.
He's a good lad.
I doubt it.
Theon Greyjoy. What the heck? 3. There's more in there?
What the heck? He said, let me smell it.
Let me smell it?
Quero cheirar teu bacalhau, Maria.
What the heck? Cheirar bacalhau. Back at Winterfell. What do they eat here? Do they eat like porridge, oatmeal, slob?
Yeah, probably like scraps.
With Sam.
Ah, Prince Pork Chop. Where is he?
He wasn't hungry.
Impossible.
That's enough.
Poor guy, bro. He just gets bullied for no reason. He's just a kid who's lost in the world.
Sam's no different from the rest of us. There's no place for him in the world, so he's come here.
Exactly.
We're not going to hurt him in the training yard anymore. Never again, no matter what Thorne says. He's our brother now, and we're going to protect him.
You are in love, Lord Snow. You girls.
Oh, I hate this guy.
But if Thorne puts me up against Lady Piggy, I'm going to slice me off a side of bacon.
Uh-oh. Yeah, some men just have no honor, right? Like, they have no empathy. It's pretty incredible. Oh. Ooh.
Uh-oh, he's in a vulnerable position.
Oh. What's the name of his wolf again?
A ghost, I think.
Ghost. Sheesh. Uh-oh. Speaking of bacon, the dog smells bacon.
Yeah. Don't you hurt him now.
What are you waiting for?
Somebody needs to teach Tarly, though. Like, teach him some moves. Come on, Jon, help your boy.
Attack him!
Hey, it's still his, like, first days here. Give him some time.
Nah, but I would do better. I'll be like, come on, karate chop.
You, get in there.
This is like playing with your younger sibling. It's like you gotta pretend that everything is hyperbolized.
Oh, look. Oh, shoot.
You think this is funny, do you?
When you're out there, beyond the wall with the sun going down, do you want a man at your back? Or a sniveling boy?
I mean, I get why he's trying to train them, but he does kind of have it out.
Yes. What the heck is this guy doing?
You send this whore to give me commands. I should have sent you back her head.
What?
Khaleesi, it is you.
Hush now, it's all right. Take her and leave us.
Yes, Khaleesi.
What did she do?
Oh, this brother's pissing me off.
I just wanted to invite you to supper.
What's this?
It's a gift. I had it made for you.
Dothraki rags. You're going to dress me now?
Please.
But this stinks of manure.
Oh my gosh.
You next don't want to braid my hair.
You've no right to a braid. You've won no victories yet.
Talk back to me.
Oh.
Slut.
Oh.
Now you've woken the dragon.
Oh. Oh. Come on. Come on. Come on.
Oh, look.
I am a Khaleesi of the Dothraki.
Oh my gosh.
But of the great Khal, and I carry his son inside.
Ooh, boy, you the best up.
You raise a hand to me. Will be the last time you have.
Oh, let's go. Oh, you messed with the wrong person, bro. There we go.
Look how scared he was.
Oh, man, this guy deserves it.
Oh my gosh.
He's so annoying, man.
Well, don't you think it's a little bit unfair? Making us take our vows while they sneak off for a little sally on the side.
Wait, what? They could leave the wall?
Sally on the side? It's silly, isn't it? What? We can't defend the wall unless we celebrate. It's absurd. I didn't think you'd be so upset about it. Why not? Because I'm fat.
Hey, he got mad.
No. But I like girls just as much as you. They might not like me as much.
Aww.
as much. I've never been with one.
Oh, we gotta.
You probably had hundreds. No.
Wow.
As a matter of fact, the same as you.
What?
Yeah, I find that hard.
Hey, you didn't act that surprised when Tarly said it.
I was alone in a room with a naked girl. Didn't know where to put it.
Nowhere to put it.
Nowhere to put it.
Nowhere to put it.
Was she old and ugly? Young and gorgeous.
Huh.
A whore named Roz.
Oh, the same girl?
Damn, she's popular, huh? Red hair.
Red hair. And her, you don't want to know. Not that good. Better.
Wow.
Hey, they're bonding. They're bonding now. They're getting somewhere.
Why exactly did you not make love to Roz with the perfect? What's my name? Jon Snow. Why is my surname Snow?
Yeah, why?
You're a bastard from the north. I never met my mother. My father wouldn't even tell me her name. I don't know if she's a noblewoman or a fisherman's wife or a whore.
Wow.
What if I got her pregnant? She had a child. Another bastard named Snow.
Wow.
That's interesting.
It's not a good life for a child.
Wow. He doesn't want to, like, pass on the burden of being a bastard.
So, you didn't know where to put it?
Yeah, because he was worried about pregnancy, and then he's basically like, hey, there's other places.
You look cold, boys.
Tis a bit nippy.
Bit nippy, yeah. By the fire, indoors. It's still summer.
Oh, it's summer there.
You boys even remember the last winter?
Yeah, winter is coming still.
Were the days when you just couldn't get warm, never mind how many fires your servants built.
I build my own fires.
That's admirable. I spent 6 months out there, beyond the wall, during the last winter.
Wow.
We heard a rumor Mance Rayder was planning to attack Eastwatch, so we went out to look for some of his men, capture them, gather some knowledge. The wildlings who fight for Mance Rayder are hard men, harder than you'll ever be.
The wildlings.
They know their country better than we do. They knew there was a storm coming in, so they hid in their caves and waited for it to pass. They yammed 100-foot trees straight from the ground, roots and all. What? To find your cock to have a piss, you lost a finger to the frost.
Oh my gosh.
And all in darkness.
Darkness.
You don't know cold. Neither of you do.
Interesting. You don't know cold.
The horses died first.
Did they eat the horses?
Didn't have enough to feed them, to keep them warm. Eating the horses was easy. But later when we started to fall.
Oh, did they eat each other?
That wasn't easy.
Cannibalism?
Oh my gosh.
We should have had a couple of boys like you along, shouldn't we?
Oof.
Oh.
A lot of meat.
Soft, fat boys like you. We'd have lasted a fortnight on you. And still had bones left over for soup.
Oh my goodness.
You lot will be passed along to the Lord Commander. And they will call you men of the Night's Watch. And come the winter, you will die like flies. Anyways,
let's go, team.
Yeah, like that's a lot of great words of encouragement.
Anyways, yeah, so...
I hit the dragon.
Your brother Rhaegar was the last dragon. Viserys is less than the shadow of a snake. Do you want to see your brother sitting on the Iron Throne?
Hell no.
No.
The common people pray for rain, health, and a summer that never ends. They don't care what games the High Lords play.
Very true.
What do you pray for, Sir Jorah?
Home.
Where is his home?
My brother will never take back the 7 kingdoms. He couldn't lead an army even if my husband gave him one.
Yeah.
He'll never take us home.
Oh, we see the king being a king for the first time in the whole series.
No, he's drinking again.
I know, like, he's attending this, like... Oh, is this the thing where the 2 horses and they have those long needles thing?
A joust, right?
Jousting tournament, right?
I think so.
Yeah, that was very common back
Lovers
then.
quarrel.
We saw that in the Renaissance fair propaganda
an old
videos.
friend of the family. I've known your mother a long, long time.
Why do they call you Littlefinger?
Arya, don't be rude.
No, it's quite all right.
I mean, it's his name.
When I was a child, I was very small, and I come from a little spit of land called the Fingers, so you see, it's an exceedingly clever nickname.
Fingers.
The fingers.
Start the damn joust before I piss this out.
She's always happy.
Gods, who's that?
Sir Gregor Clegane. They call him the Mountain.
Damn, look at the size of this guy.
Oh my gosh. Oh.
Yes, enough of the bloody pomp. How about him?
The mountain. Dude, this guy's huge. Look at his horse. His horse is huge compared to the other guy. What the heck?
Is that fair?
This kid's gonna get murdered. This kid's gonna get squashed.
Well, maybe he might not move as fast.
Oh no, he's coming pretty fast. Oh my god, I'd be horrified. Look, he can't even like straighten it.
Are those real knives though? I think that they're just like...
Nah, they're just sticks, right? Like they're really long. I don't know. But the goal in this is to hit in the middle of the chest. And it could kill you. Like it could maim you, essentially. Render you obsolete. Ooh, he got his shoulder. Oh my god, did he get his shoulder? Oh my god, never mind. Yes, you can kill. Yes.
What?
Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. God, look at that. This is what they used to do for entertainment. They didn't have Game of Thrones to watch. They just would watch a guy just die and drown in his own blood. Holy moly. And that's it, guys. Yay. See you next week.
There's like kids watching.
Everybody watching, bro. Everybody's...
Nope.
Has anyone ever told you the story of the mountain and the hound?
Oh, let's hear it. Mountain Hound.
Lovely little tale of brotherly love. The hound was just a pup. 6 years old, maybe. Some lucky boys just born with a talent for violence. One evening, Gregor found his little brother playing with a toy by the fire.
Oh, that explains.
A wooden knight. He just grabbed his brother by the scruff of his neck and shoved his face into the burning coals while the boy screamed.
What?
While his face melted.
Oh my god, he was just a little kid.
Just a little pup.
There aren't very many people who know that story.
I won't tell anyone, I promise.
What?
No, please don't.
Why did he tell her?
I'm afraid all the knights in King's Landing would not be able to save you.
That's so weird.
The Hound. And Arya heard it too because she's nestled against her shoulder over there. Oh, look. Is this the same dagger that they used?
Lord, Her Grace, the Queen.
Oops.
Uh-oh. Here comes trouble.
Putting my name on it doesn't make it mine.
I thought we might put what happened on the King's Road behind us. Though sometimes we go to extremes where our children are concerned. How is Sansa?
Okay, that's nice.
She's the only Stark who does.
What are you doing here?
I might ask the same of you. What is it you hope to accomplish?
The king called on me to serve him and the realm.
You can't change him, you can't help him. You'll try your best to pick up the pieces.
That's my job, then so be it.
You're just a soldier, aren't you?
He's like a babysitter.
Take your orders and you carry on. Your older brother was trained to lead and you were trained to follow.
I was also trained to kill my enemies, Your Grace.
As was I.
Sheesh. You could feel the tension. You could cut the tension with a knife in this room.
Ooh.
Let's go.
7 blessings for good folk.
Oh.
Boy, bread, meat and beer, quickly.
Oh, good idea, Grandfather. I'm starving. No, Grandfather. This will be the last chance of getting north. The only music the Northerners know is the howling of wolves.
Catelyn.
I'm sorry, my...
Oh.
For myself, I don't require a large room.
Ooh.
Surely, my lord, we have nothing.
Is there nothing I can do to remedy this?
Oh, he's offering money.
Now, there's a clever man.
For money.
Huh.
Lady Stark. What an unexpected pleasure.
Ooh.
I like how they make things so public.
Yeah.
How fares your lord, sir?
Lord Walder's well, my lady. He has asked your father for the honor of his presence on his 90th name day. He plans to take another wife.
Who's her father? Some big shot?
Something Tully of Riverrun.
This man came into my house as a guest and there conspired to murder my son. A boy of 10. I call upon you to seize him and help me return him to Winterfell to await the king's justice.
But she has no proof. Oh my god. She has no proof though. It was him? Definitively? But he gifted Bran with the thing.
Oh, but she doesn't even know that.
Oh my goodness. All right. So a lot's going on here.
Yeah.
What a ending. Okay, another one of those cliffhangers. What happens next?
Let me do my swapperoo.
Oh, flip the hair? Flip the hair. This is the equivalent of like Ash Ketchum when he turns his cap.
And my cap is now turned.
Now you're ready now. You're ready now to battle, to duel. All right, this one felt more information heavy. A lot of names. I'm going to have to replay this one after we're done. I'm going to have to replay it, write down the names that they said about the sequence of kings and who ruled what. Yeah, this one, what were your thoughts on this one?
Same as you. I feel like there was a lot of kind of information that we were given. We got to see a little bit more of the kind of dynamics at play, especially politically, and the tension building. And now Tyrion is getting arrested for something he obviously didn't do. And it's just a matter of time before she finds out that it wasn't him.
Well, it's not really obvious. Like, we don't know if he didn't do it. We don't know, like, because a lot of the games here is all about deceit, right? So he gives them a gift, like gives Bran, like he specifically out of all the Lannisters gives him a gift. And maybe that's a sign that he feels guilty. You know, like there's guilt weighing on his conscience. Like, we don't know for a fact unless you do.
No, I'm saying it like, well, I'm assuming it's obvious because it was his brother and sister that pushed Bran out of the window.
True.
And so they were the ones that conspired to murder him. But
But maybe he had a part in the whole dagger situation.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. But he seems like such a good guy that, I don't know, I didn't see it.
He seems like a good guy. He's very wise. I don't know. I feel like this episode also emphasizes again, obviously with the title of the episode, Cripples, Bastards, and Broken Things. It emphasizes and focuses more on the kind of outcasts of this world. You know, you have Samwell Tarly?
Mm-hmm.
Samwell Tarly, you have Tyrion Lannister, and you have Jon Snow. And you have Bran, who's a cripple. These are all outcasts. And yeah, like this discussion is going to be a little shorter because there's not much to go off of. I could just read my list real quick if you want, and I could just go in order. The first thing I wrote down was the three-eyed raven. 3 eyes usually symbolizes a third eye, you know, and I thought about Tien from Dragon Ball. He has a third eye right in the middle. Third eye usually means the ability to look beyond the visual landscape or what other people are limited to 2 eyes in terms of vision. You're able to see one dimension further, so you're able to kind of exceed beyond, you know, the common comprehension of how the world works, and you're able to have more foresight and more vision in general. Ravens, I believe ravens were used by Odin, right? Odin had 2 ravens or crows. I believe they were ravens, but maybe I'm butchering it. But he had 2 black birds who would basically fly between Midgard and Asgard, and they would basically eavesdrop and spy on his behalf and then relay what the humans were doing on Earth and what other entities and beings were doing. So he was aware of everything through the ravens or through his black birds.
And we saw 2 ravens like a few months ago, remember? And they like cawed right as they were flying.
Yeah, we saw a super low one, and they're huge in person. Like, I never expected them to be that big. Like, huge wingspan, and it just flew and just cocked at us. Or hawked or cocked or whatever you call it. Tailor the horse to the rider. I really enjoy that idea. I think that Tyrion is basically sympathizing with Bran, obviously because Bran now is incapacitated. He's been maimed, right? Like, he's been crippled. And maybe that's probably how Tyrion feels. And so he empathizes with him. I thought it was a really cool gesture to basically remind Bran that just because you're in this new position and this is your new predicament now, and possibly forever, doesn't mean that your mobility is going to be constrained. It's like you're still able to mount a horse. And if you're able to mount a horse, then you're able to ride through the realms. And if you're able to ride through the realms, then you're able to be an active actor, an active participant in life, right? Like, you don't have to be restricted to a room inside of a castle, and you don't have to sit at the dinner table for the rest of your life. Like, you can ride a horse. And there's a lot of emphasis on horse. You know, like, it starts with the horse, the Dothraki horses, and then you have the night watch guy, the fun guy who's super always happy, great mood. He said that they ate horses and then they started eating each other or something like that.
That's insane.
You know, like you got to do what you got to do, but yeah, so a lot of emphasis on horses. And then you have the jousting, right? How the horse is basically used as a weapon in that case, is weaponized. I thought that was pretty cool. Look, this might be a mentally gone connection, but the horse reminds me a lot of maybe like if you were to describe Ned Stark, I think I'd call him, like I would assign to him maybe a horse sigil. Because a horse is usually very obedient, strong, noble, loyal, and does what it's ordered to do, which is why they say like, you should be Callie. Callie's such a workhorse. You know, he gets the job done. It's like that's usually what people use as a honorable feature, is being able to just blindly look forward. And I believe horses are the only ones that can really like lock in. It's like they don't really care about what's going on around them. And so that's why they're easily controllable. It's because like you just like give them a little thing, a little boost, and then they know what to do. Like they just
yip.
Yip.
Yeah, a little giddy up.
Giddy up, horsey.
Yeah, and something that I was going to mention too is that the way that I saw it is that in this show, it seems that only people of a higher title are entitled to horses. And so it's like the knights, it's the noblemen, it's the people of the Night's Watch, which are protecting and they ride on horses. It's the Dothraki horse lords, right? And so I think that having a horse is a symbol of power. And so Tyrion kind of designing this custom saddle, right, for Bran to ride a horse is kind of meant to embolden and empower him because he is still a noble boy. Like he's still of the House Stark and he could still be a participant, just like you're saying, and just like Ned was saying to Arya, that he can still be in the King's Council. He can still be a lord of a castle and stuff. And so yeah, I think that's exactly what it was. It was meant to kind of like take his physical limitations and give him a symbol and a potential for hope and change and being able to still move past those physical restrictions.
You know what it also kind of echoes in my head, and this is another mentally gone connection. And whenever I say mentally gone connection, because I'll start doing that a lot, that means that it might be a complete reach and it might be like me being a potato, so bear with me. But hopefully it's at the very least entertaining my weird, crazy connections. But the horse being tailored to the rider reminds me of weapons being tailored for the warriors. And then Ned Stark said to Arya, he said to Arya that Bran wanted to be a knight for the King's Watch, right? For the King's Army or something. And that now he can't be that. But then he could still be a lord and he can erect castles and he can be like Brandon the Builder. I think he said like Bob the Builder, right? Bob the Builder back then.
Yeah.
Great joke.
Bob the Builder medieval.
Bob the Builder.
Can we fix it?
Bob the Builder. Yes, we can.
No.
But yeah, so the weapon being tailored to the warrior, right? Usually that's the case. It's that the blacksmith looks at the warrior and says, I know exactly what you need. Yeah. And then comes back to him a week later and says, here you go, here's your sword. Just like Arya received the needle from Jon. The needle emphasizes her build. It emphasizes her kind of presence in that world. She's skinny, she's sleek, and she's trying to be more like, agile. She's small, she can fit into like areas and she can sneak around like a cat. And so she's embodying these characteristics. And it's also interesting how Arya's professor, teaching her the water dance, right, is advising her to observe nature. It's like observe the cats. Be like nature. Be like a cat. Be instinctual. Focus more on your instincts, on your intuition, on your sixth sense,
Yeah.
But you were going to say?
I was going to say that, that it's exactly like we just saw in our last reaction with Captain America. He gets the shield, and he picks out the shield. So it's like you kind of pick what you're called to, and also it picks you in a sense, and
Yes.
and it's just like bestowed upon you.
And I think that it's very symbolic too, because when you conquer a horse, for example, right? Like when you establish a connection with a horse, I don't think we really conquer horses. I think that it's like a mutual kind of like language that has to happen between a man and a horse, and that's why back then, like, the horse was like your cherished kind of ally in this world, right? It was kind of like a pet, but more endearing to some riders or to some warriors. And I think that that translates to modern times where people become infatuated with their cars, right? And they give their cars gender. They usually make it a girl.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, like, isn't she gorgeous? Isn't my BMW Mercedes gorgeous? Wow, she's such a stunning beauty. Man, she's so hot. And then, like, meanwhile, it's just like a mechanical, cold, like object, inanimate object. But that comes from back then with the horse, I think. It's that relationship with nature. And yeah, there's something there about Bran kind of establishing a connection with nature, and then Arya also establishing a connection with nature. And then Sansa seems like the one who's really fully immersed in the politicalness of the whole thing. Like, she's worried about, what if I don't have boys? They're going to hate me. It's all this expectation. A lot of it is expected from her. And she's just completely engulfed in that world.
Yeah, I was gonna say the same thing. I feel like it's very different. Like, Arya seems like someone who kind of pushes the boundaries a little bit, which is very similar to what we see her father doing, right? Because he's inquiring about certain things and kind of digging up certain conspiracies that he feels called to unravel. And Arya is the same way with her, lessons that she's taking and not wanting to be the typical lady of a prince or lady of a lord, and just like pushing the boundaries and being unorthodox, but then still being very firm in her truth and in her independence. And I feel like it's very honorable, like her father. And then Sansa, on the other hand, is very passive, like you're saying, and she's very just like you're saying, she's very naive to what the world is. And that's why she romanticized the idea of being in a relationship with Joffrey. And now she feels like he hates her.
Yeah.
And now she's worried about if she'll be a suitable queen and if she'll be a suitable mother. And then even when she was like asking about the joust, right? She was asking at first, like, genuinely curious with like this childlike wonder, like, oh, and who's that? And who's that? And just like ready to witness this cool spectacle, this like entertainment in the royal family. And then it just turns out to be a freaking bloodbath. And you could see on her face like this, the innocence just melting away.
Yes.
And I feel like that's what we see. It's like, I think that Arya is a little bit more keen to
reality.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then Sansa is slowly kind of allowing this preconceived idea of like fairy tale land kind of like fading away, and it's kind of like melting away.
Yeah.
With every second of staying at King's Landing. One thing that I just want to point out with the whole jousting thing is it's so wild to me, but also it's not unbelievable, because it's very believable and it makes sense, but it's just really, really, really wild to like see it happening on screen. Obviously it's fake, but this like reenactment probably is very close to how it would happen back in the day. Everybody's gathered for this event, this tournament. Everybody's excited. Everybody wants to see something happen. They want to see these two knights, just drive at each other, and then one of them is going to get hurt, and one of them is going to win, and one of them is going to lose. I think that was a microcosmic moment. It's like a little reduced sample, like a sample size at Costco, like when you get samples, right? Like you get a little cup with a little sample, and you're like, this is good. I might buy the real thing. So it's interesting because you could tell a lot about a culture of a people, and also about the character of that culture by what they're entertained by. Like they're entertained by massacre, bloodshed, violence, death. And I think that that's a little telling of what we can expect from the whole saga. It's like nobody went to help that guy. nobody ushered any assistance. Nobody really really cared. Like everybody was kind of just kind of looking at it, disgusted, but they couldn't really look away.
Yeah.
And so there's something that calls them to violence, and I think it's boredom.
Yeah.
Like I think that they're just bored. And I think that it gets to a point where you're so comfortable and you've established the kingdom and you have everything, and you're kind of like, all right, just throw a few lions inside of the Colosseum and throw a few slaves and let's see what happens, essentially. And yeah, it's just crazy to me.
And it's also like having so much power that it becomes this kind of like nonchalant play of, you know, doing whatever they feel, like even if it doesn't make sense, if it's completely irrational, if it's just borderline psychotic or whatever it is, it's like they just have so much of a nonchalant attitude and way of living because they are not preoccupied with anything, unlike the people in the north who have faced winters and who have faced the people at the wall, especially who have been beyond the wall and faced the harsh realities of what there is and stuff. And then it seems like the further south you go, the more oblivious and kind of like in their own world that they are, you know?
Yeah, this really feels like it feels like everybody lacks purpose, especially the king. It feels like he's a king of this kingdom, but there's no real 5-year, 10-year plan moving forward because the king is too busy screwing around with 5, 10 women, right? So he doesn't really have any kind of like vision for the future of his kingdom. And you can kind of tell because he's always just intoxicating himself, gorging, just giving into excess. And I think that when there's a lack of purpose, there's no drive. And so what's going to drive this story forward? It's like so far it's been a bunch of conspiracies, right? It's like a conspiracy is what's keeping everybody entertained. And then it goes back to the whole jousting thing. It's like they love this element of violence and just like cutthroat and literally showing the guy just having a thing shoved through his throat. So it's very cutthroat, but they enjoy it.
Yeah.
And that's what keeps them entertained versus, for example, having an objective, having a goal, and then having the king lead his people towards that goal. Or even having a religious structure kind of dictate, you know, like kind of have them operate within a religious framework, you know, like that could work too. It's like, oh, like we are the 7 kingdoms and we are fighting for the glory of this God, or we are fulfilling the prophecy of this God. And, you know, like there's not even that. So it seems like it's just it seems like a big cruise ship, those big American shopping malls just floating in the middle of the ocean. And just everybody just kind of like, whatever, you know? It's like, I have nothing to do anyways.
Yeah, and they have like no bigger war to fight. And so there's all this like weird little wars going on between each other, you know, which is what we see when Littlefinger was explaining how they all have their spies and stuff. And it's so weird because when Ned commands the King's Council or whatever to leave, he's like, okay, this meeting is over, I declare it over. They quickly leave. It's almost as if they have places to be. It's like, I have to be there first, I have to get the news first, I have to be the one like in on whatever it is, the like first, you know, first come first serve type of thing.
Yeah, just like school when you would hear the bell.
Yeah.
And then everybody starts getting up, and then the teacher's like, the bell doesn't dismiss you, I do. Yeah. and then everybody's like rushing to go eat lunch or something. But yeah, like it just feels like it's a big cruise ship just floating aimlessly in the middle of the ocean. And then because of that, because there's no aim, everybody becomes a potential target. And that's usually how it goes, right? And it's all for the sake of power. It's all for the sake of retaining something. But then what's interesting too is Cersei, right? She's so preoccupied with knowing what the Hand of the King is up to, which obviously, like, she probably had something to do with the death of the last one, you know, like they're conspiring against it. Just like we talked about in the last one, it seems like they're arming their pieces so that they can checkmate the king, all the Lannisters kind of. But then my question is, like, what's her vision? It's like, what does she see for the future? Because she obviously has a preference, and she's unsatisfied, deeply unsatisfied with her current position. And so, I would like to know who has a future for this kingdom and who doesn't yet.
I just thought of something. You know how they said that the kid, the Gendry was his name? How they said his mom had yellow hair, right?
Yeah.
And then they said that she died apparently. And you know how she was telling the story to Catelyn saying that she had a brown-haired boy? What if he is the brown-haired boy?
Oh my
And
god.
they just like casted him out or something.
Oh my god.
That's a plot twist then.
Oh my god. Then that would make him the rightful heir to the
Yeah,
kingdom.
but he's just a bastard who doesn't know his mom.
Oh.
And that's why the hand was kept going there. The hand kept going to see him before he died. I was like trying to figure out who is this kid?
But can a bastard... Well, do you think that that's why Sansa asked the old lady, like, what happens if she can't bear a son? Like,
Yeah.
who takes the throne? Like, do you think that that's why they brought up this, like this conversation of lineage?
Mhm.
Because a lot of the emphasis in the conversations have been about lineage, right? It's like, and the first Targaryen, and then after that there was this one, and then there was this guy, and then there's a lot of like succession going on. Do you think that it has to do with, like, can bastards take up the throne if there's no pure blood kind of descendant? And do you think that the previous hand who's murdered, do you think that he was trying to set this kid up for the throne, or trying to like, what's going on here?
Yeah, I don't know, but I'm just trying to figure out if he is the king's son.
You're saying that he's Cersei's son.
He could be Cersei's son because yellow hair, like that's what he knows about his mom. She's the only woman with yellow hair
That's what I said.
that we've met.
Yeah. As soon as he said yellow hair, I said a Lannister maybe, because apparently, like, that's how the theme of this goes.
Yeah,
It's like
they're all gold. They're all like gold, yellow hair, you know.
white hair, yeah, brown, black hair. Interesting.
Yeah,
Gendry, right? His name.
Yeah, I don't know. That would be insane. But then that makes sense, and like that's what Ned is digging up, and we'll probably find out soon because he's gonna read through that book, and that book has to have something in it.
I think I know what you're saying. I think that the Lannisters found out that the old hand had figured out that this was Robert Baratheon's son.
Yeah.
Or, well, it wouldn't make him a bastard, right? It would make him the legitimate heir.
Yes, I'm thinking he could be the legitimate heir.
So do you think that Ned didn't really catch that yet? Because he said that that's Robert Baratheon's bastard son.
Yeah, but it was weird, like the way he was looking at him, like he could see like Robert Baratheon, obviously, because it's his bastard son, but he was like looking like it literally looks more like the king than any of his other kids,
because I'm just saying that, like, what if the last hand found out that this kid is the rightful heir to the throne, and he's just like a blacksmith and he doesn't know it, and maybe nobody else knows it, but then maybe Cersei knows it, and then that's what prompted them to conspire and have him killed, is that he planned on telling Robert. Maybe Robert doesn't even know.
Yeah. I don't I don't think so.
Because apparently only the hand of the king went to speak to him, so.
Oh my gosh, that's getting crazy then.
Anyways, but then speaking of the king, right? Speaking of Robert Baratheon, I'm pretty sure that in one of the last episodes, he said that his first kill was a Tarly boy. So I would be curious to know if that's anyhow connected to Samwell Tarly. I'm assuming it is, so I wrote it down, and I'll wait to see if that gets filled in. They fear any water that the horse can't drink. That's the reason why the Dothraki don't cross the narrow sea, which is interesting. Because if you cross the narrow sea, then you have to cross with your horse, and then you have to have a large enough boat and ships. And I don't know if how big their ships were, but that's pretty interesting.
And then as a metaphor, like what does that mean? Because of the whole like you can lead a horse to water, but you can't force it to drink.
Yeah.
So is that the case with their horses? It's like they could lead it to the water, but they can't force it to drink waters that they wouldn't drink.
I think that it might like my intuition or my interpretation is that when I think of the Dothraki, I don't view them as ambitious people.
Mhm.
I view them as people who are kind of like satisfied with what they have, and that's why they live in a simple manner. But it's also enriched with culture, and it's enriched with dance, and it's enriched with like ways of being, right? Like they've established their tribe, and their tribalism is very apparent, and it bleeds off the screen when you see them. I think that usually those are the types of people who don't care about conquest as much as other people.
Yeah.
So the statement that you made is that you could lead a horse to water, but you can't force it to drink. I feel like they want to stay where the horse god first was born.
Yeah.
And maybe that has to do with the land that they founded their community on. And maybe that has to do with, I don't know, like prophecy, religion. Maybe they just feel like they have no need to cross the sea because they have plenty of food for their horses here, and they have no need for war or for conquest because whatever. But then again, they accepted the deal with the Targaryen guy who sold his sister into marriage.
Mhm.
So in exchange for an army. So they want foreign community. Like, I don't know, like it's hard to read the Dothraki. I don't really understand their game yet.
Yeah, it doesn't seem like they're involved in like the grander political scheme that we've been seeing so far with like the Lannisters and the king directly, but there is kind of like maybe there's like because they carry the noble name of the Targaryens, and so maybe they think that it'll bring them just more riches and stuff, and not necessarily, I don't know, like it doesn't, just like you're saying, it doesn't seem like there's that ambition for conquest and to seize the throne themselves or anything. They seem very satisfied with their lives, and so I think that maybe it's just like what it invites to marry somebody who's going to inherit the throne. You
I
know?
think that for them it's more of an appetite for war. I feel like they derive their value and their meaning and their honor from the amount of men that they kill. So maybe that has to do with the ponytails. You know, it's like attaching more and more ponytails and making your hair longer and longer. So I think that if they see a possibility or a potential to war against people other than themselves, and maybe they take that opportunity.
Yeah, that makes sense.
It's just like a hunger for like blood, essentially. It's like maybe they're just deranged in that way.
Yeah, they're like, okay, you want our army?
Yeah.
Okay, they'll love to fight.
Yeah.
Like, they like to fight and die on the battlefield kind of thing, you know?
It's like if you get really talented kids and you offer them to play soccer at Barcelona, basically. It's like, hey, you want to go to war? It's like, yes. Finally, I get my big shot. I get to kill other people and I don't get like have to worry.
Break some ankles.
Yeah. They fear any horror. Yeah, so like maybe that has to do with that. But it's interesting. Brave men didn't kill. Oh, the statement about how brave men don't kill dragons, they ride them. That was really, 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 really profound.
Yeah.
Because dragons usually are the archetypal image of the hero and the warrior and the seeker's biggest fears, right? It's the embodiment of I don't know, like I don't know how to explain it, but it's basically the embodiment of fear.
Of chaos, too.
Of potential chaos, yeah. And it's usually represented as a serpent or a flying dragon. And if it's a flying dragon, then essentially it's a flying serpent. So not only is it dangerous on the ground, but it's dangerous in the air, and it's dangerous in some flying dragons can even swim. So usually it's the case where the hero goes into the cave or goes underground and ventures into hell and then slays a dragon, rescues a princess, rescues the gold or the special artifact, and then retrieves it, brings it back, and then saves the kingdom. And that's usually like a metaphor for the person overcoming their biggest fears, retrieving the alchemical gold, wisdom, right? It's usually derived from a long journey of going through, I don't know.
Into the fire.
Help me out here.
Yeah.
Like I feel like I'm a little bit rusty. But essentially, like, that's what it represents. But then a truly brave person is a person who rides the dragon. And that's even harder because then you have to establish a connection with the beast. And so you don't destroy the shadow aspect of yourself, but you make peace with it.
Yeah.
And so you don't destroy your fears, but you kind of alchemize it into a potential partner, a potential help.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then that goes to like you mentioning like Harry Potter, for example. That was like the goblins having the dragon chained up. Like that didn't make them braver than Hermione, who just jumped on its back, you know? So
Yes.
it's like that idea of whether you try to tame the beast by killing it or whether you just confront your fears head on. So it's like escapism and control versus just like jumping to the occasion, you know?
Yeah. And like it's definitely harder for you to tame a dragon than it is for you to kill it. I feel like killing a dragon is probably easier than to be able to like establish a position where you can actually mount it and then it'll like obey you and it won't turn it, like knock you off and eat you.
Yeah, like that's a notch above horses.
Yeah.
That's like 5 notches above a horse.
Exactly. So I really enjoyed that phrase. I thought that it was incredibly profound. I'm like really rusty with the whole archetype things, like the whole Carl Jung stuff. I have to like tap into that again. I have to read some books. But okay. Iron Throne, 1,000 melted swords by the breath of a dragon. 1,000 melted swords. I thought that was incredibly poetic, very beautiful. Just melted swords make up the throne, of fallen warriors. Molded and melted by the breath of a dragon. Like, how badass is that? That's crazy. Like, that's all I have to say about that. It's just badass.
Like you're sitting on a throne that's like the epitome of like war and like destruction and just
like imagine each sword like it has within it like the soul of that fallen warrior, and then it just echoes through that hall and you're sitting on it, and like that's the price of power too. Like it's a constant reminder of the price you pay in order to sit on that throne. It's like many lives were paid in order for a king to sit.
Yeah.
And so, it's just a very like shocking image.
And we haven't seen King Robert sitting on the throne yet.
We haven't, right?
I don't think so.
Every time we've seen that throne, it's been vacant.
Yeah.
Which is
vacant, but people kind of lingering around it.
Yeah, everybody lingers around the throne, and I bet you that a few of them like look around. And then they run real quick and sit on it. It's like that's what I would.
Like,
yeah.
Is there anybody around me? My precious.
But yeah, like just like I said, I really didn't take too many notes because like this one felt more uneventful but very informative.
Yeah, it's like filling us in on the details,
Yeah. Oh, this part was cool. Wildlings, Vietnam, new landscape. That's how I make my notes, by the way. It's just like wildlings. Arrow, Vietnam, arrow, new landscape. So then after the fact, like my future self has to basically understand what the past self that was watching it. It's like, oh, he'll get it. He'll get it 30 minutes from now. He'll understand. Don't worry.
That's what mine are like too. Praying for home.
Praying for home. Yeah. So wildlings, basically that instructor on the wall, he said that they got brutally outmatched by the wildlings beyond the wall because the wildlings knew the landscape better and they essentially like knew how to harness the power beyond the wall. And that reminds me of the Vietnam War where the United States got brutally demoralized because of the fact that the Vietnamese they understood their country. Like the war happened within their country, within their space, and they're familiar with the jungles of Vietnam, and they're familiar with the temperatures and the humidity and the animals and the diseases. And so in that case, and the same happened in the Russia situation when like Hitler tried to take over Russia. It's like he couldn't take over the winter essentially. So yeah, there's a lot of this element of surprise, but also element of adaptability and being able to adapt to whatever you have at your disposal. And it was echoed when they said that they eat horse jerky and that they eat horses, the Dothraki, and then this guy said that they eat horses again. And so you do what you have to do, essentially, is what I'm
Yeah.
trying to say.
Yeah, and then it's kind of like when you're in unknown territories, just like
Mhm.
you're saying, the adaptability that you have. So that's like echoing the whole series because we're seeing the Starks go from the north to the south, and we see like the Dothraki, the brother who wants to take the Dothraki from their lands that they know and bring them across the sea. And it's like this whole exchange of like going into places where you don't belong or places that you're unfamiliar with, and then trying to accustom and like acclimate to the terrains and to the politics and to the,
Yeah.
the lifestyle essentially.
Yeah, everybody seems to have a shift in that lifestyle other than the king, like the king seems very well accustomed to his way of living.
He's like, let me smell it.
Let me smell it. Come here. You don't know cold. I thought that was really cool too. Like basically, like you don't know suffering. Like you don't know true pain. And I think that instructor was in a weird and twisted way trying to help Jon and Tarly. I think that he was basically saying like, you guys don't know real struggle. It's like you guys are here talking about all this little bullshit emotions of like being a bastard, being ostracized, boo-hoo, essentially is what he's doing. It's like, oh, like you think that's hard, Tarly? Yeah, like your daddy didn't like you, and Jon, you think that's hard, like that your stepmother didn't like you. Well, you don't know what cold is. Like, you don't know what pain is. It's like you haven't seen beyond the wall. You haven't been there. You don't know what it's like to expect 2 weeks and have to survive for 6 months. It's like, I don't think anybody does.
Yeah.
And so I think that was a little moment where he was trying to maybe open their eyes. I don't think that it would be in his best interest to basically destroy all of the people that are sent to him to take the black and be a part of the wall. I think it's in his best interest to strengthen all of his warriors, because if he truly believes in what he's saying and he has seen the worst of the worst beyond the wall, then he, out of all of them, probably knows best that if whatever he saw beyond the wall comes for them, that he'll need all of them to be not only strong but unified, like as a unified group to take on whatever it is that's coming for them.
Yeah, I think that it also resembles like the idea of like generations before you kind of having a different approach. Like it sometimes maybe seems like they had the tougher approach, just like Robert Baratheon and Ned Stark when they had to go into war and fight and stuff. And then for I didn't get his name, but for this guy in the Night's Watch,
yeah, me neither.
He had to endure the winter beyond the wall and his men dying off and the horses dying off. And so what I was going to say is that I understand it, and I get what you're saying too about how he should, motivate them and encourage them and strengthen them and build confidence in them. But I think that the irony is that whatever he experienced completely desensitized him, and so it desensitizes him from being empathetic too.
So his compassion goes down.
Yeah. Along with everything else, like he becomes numb, and then he kind of also becomes bitter.
Right,
and
because he's been exposed to the unfairness of life, essentially. It's like, what's the point?
Yeah, the harshness. It's like, imagine enduring like a brutal winter and whatever the heck, and in the darkness too. And imagine being afraid in the darkness, cold. You don't know what's lingering about. You don't know he said that if it like just to pee, their finger would fall off from the frost.
Their prick falls off. Yeah.
The winds, like the way he was describing, I completely understand it now. Not saying that that I'm.
You've experienced it firsthand beyond the wall.
Yeah, but what?
That's a joke, and then she's like, yeah. Back in 1845, the wall. I remember it very well. I remember it very well. Let me tell you, I'll make some cookies, get the milk. I'm going to tell a story.
You sweet summer children.
Yes, I'll tell you, beyond the wall. I remember it as if it was yesterday.
You guys are the sweet summer children, because I have been beyond the wall. I rode my wolf shadow.
Yeah, my wolf shadow.
And we went behind the wall.
But one thing, well, are you done with your point?
Well, yeah. So what I was gonna say is that it makes sense, but I'm not gonna justify him being an a-hole either because
Yeah.
he is pretty mean. He is pretty rude, and it's not helpful. I think that you should want to instill confidence in your warriors and the people that are gonna be at your side
Yeah.
moving forward with this new winter that's coming and whatever comes with it.
That's what I'm saying. Like he would gain more from instilling in them maybe the sense of pride. At the very least, pride for being warriors enough and courageous enough to stand on the wall, even if you come from a condition where it's like you had no choice but to come because you're a bastard or you've been disowned by your family. But I think that the smartest thing would have been to instill them with pride.
Yeah.
Because then you can create a team mentality where it's like, what are we? Night's Watch. What do we do? Protect the realms. And then you see them being imbued with a sense of honor. But him kind of like beating everybody down and creating this sense of dread and this sense of like death, like like only death is gonna freaking save you, and not even death can save you guys because death is whatever. It's like he's so like so negative. It's like bad vibes.
Yeah, he's
You know what I'm saying? It's
he's like death is a mercy.
He's like bad vibes, guys. I'm gonna start doing every review moving
It's like
forward.
bad vibes.
It's gonna be like that dude is just not cool. Like
No.
he just has like bad vibes all around. Like I didn't really like his vibe. And I asked him for a vape. He didn't have a vape, and he didn't. But I saw that he had a vape, and he didn't want to let me borrow it. So
For sure.
I didn't invite him to the party.
For sure.
Because screw that guy. One thing that I wanted to point out before I forget is that there are two games being played here also, like two parallels, I should say. You have the jousting tournament, which were two honorable people. You have the Hound, was his name, right? No, the Mountain versus this Knight guy. So two people with a reputation that precedes them and a noble title. And they're basically proving themselves and trying to gain honor from the king by displaying their abilities and their skills before the king. And then you have the Night's Watch, who are responsible for protecting the realms from the great beyond, the great unknown, winter, which is coming. And they similarly are trying to gain honor, right, from the king. But then it's interesting how the king prioritizes the jousting because it's imbued with prestige and titles, and there's a lot of politics being played. And so I think that what I'm trying to say is that there's the title world, and then there's the you have no title world.
Yeah.
And title doesn't exist here because we're all equal men, and we're all equal. Those who take the black are all equalized, and we're all brothers, and this is a brotherhood. So there's no titles here. There's no hierarchy aside from our commander, Black Watch, or whatever he's called.
Yeah, you renounce your claim to any lands and any titles, any children. So
yeah, and because they haven't seen any real action or war or conflict, just like Ned Stark said while he was analyzing people in that little thing before he spoke with Gendry, he said that a lot of these people bear the title of knights and they've never even seen a flesh. Like they've never even seen an arrow or they've never seen conflict, essentially. So it's basically, yeah, like it's just a big cruise ship floating in the ocean. Again, like there's no really like substance behind it.
Yeah.
And then let me think here. I think that's it for me, honestly.
Wow. Okay. So mine will be quick too. I don't think I have like too much either. Okay, I wanted to start off with the three-eyed raven. This is what I thought was interesting because it appeared to Bran in a dream. So I'm trying to make sense of this. And then the old lady questions like, "Did you have another dream, my little lord," or whatever? So
he was probably having a nightmare from her stories.
Yeah, but what I was thinking is that it was a three-eyed raven or a crow, but whatever, it was a three-eyed raven, right? And it was guiding him to the castle. Like, I don't know what part of the castle that was, but through the castle of Winterfell, because then he follows it. It flies into the wherever it goes.
It lures him.
Yeah,
somewhere.
it lures him through. And then what I thought was that I started thinking, like, birds are messengers, right? So he's receiving a message through his dream, and then it kind of foreshadowed what we saw Tyrion building, like giving the saddle blueprints, right? But anyways, it foreshadows, because the way that I saw it was this. Just bear with me here.
Oh, yeah.
The bird gave him this message through the dream, right? Of kind of like, follow me, and then for a second in his dream he's walking again. And so there's like this there's no longer the limitations of being crippled, of being physically limited, right?
Right.
And so it's kind of like hinting at this freedom that he would soon realize he could have with riding the horse that Tyrion makes possible for him. But then it's also this idea that Tyrion has been reiterating to everybody, to Jon Snow, like through himself with his like intellect and stuff, and then to Bran. It's this idea that your disabilities don't cripple you, and that you can free yourself and you can be unbounded through your mind or through your spirit or through your whatever it is, like whatever your outlet is, and you can just strengthen that and you can embolden it. And so I think that for Bran, it'll be whatever it becomes, but it's kind of like the raven served as like a symbol of hope a little bit, of this idea that he doesn't have to be tied to his bed. Like, and then it foreshadowed with the whole saddle thing, I think. You know,
That's
like,
really good, yeah.
it was meant to be like an omen a little bit, because birds are omens for messages.
And dreams are famously the subconscious communicating with the conscious self, right? So in sleeping life, Bran is able to be mobile. He's unbounded, just like you said. Like, he's untethered. Like, he can follow birds, and maybe that bird is supposed to represent him in some capacity, where it's like, if you open your third eye, just like Tyrion seems to have done, if you open your third eye through knowledge and learning and wisdom, then you can basically, like, you don't have to be able to be mobile in the waking life, and you can just mentally go places and mentally travel and mentally know the world without having to necessarily walk to every corner of this world. You know, it's like today, for example, with the access to the internet, you can learn about places without ever leaving your house. Like, you can learn about the whole world without ever leaving your front door.
Yeah.
And I think that that's what it was kind of communicating to me, is that maybe that's his subconscious, because usually that's how our subconscious speaks to us, is through dreams. And it could be a positive omen, just like you're saying. And it could be, well, it's highly symbolic, but I don't really know what the ravens represent, other than that they're messenger birds and they were used by Odin, I believe.
Yeah, and then also it has a third eye, so it's like enlightenment, right?
Yeah.
So it's meant to, I think it's meant to be a good sign. It's meant to kind of show him this deeper understanding that goes beyond the perceived surface level understanding, you know?
Yes.
And that surface level understanding is that, hey, you're crippled and you're tethered to your bed, but the deeper understanding is that you can unlock things now beyond your presumed potential that you thought you had, you know?
And it kind of motivates him too. It's basically like, hey, like, don't be too sad,
Yeah.
you know, because you don't have to be bounded by anything. Like, here's this raven flies, and maybe it was trying to teach him that this raven flies, and like, basically, like, this raven is able to fly because of its third eye, and not it flies and it has a third eye. It's like there's a difference there.
Yeah.
And or maybe it flies better, maybe it flies farther, maybe it can see more because it has an extra eye.
Yeah.
And this eye is imbued by some divine intervention, you know, like some awakening moment, you know. And it's usually the case in many stories, in most stories, if you go from Icarus to Theseus and through like any ancient Greek tragedies or hero myths, it's always the case where after a fall and after kind of like a really, really intense defeat, the hero has a redemptive arc, and then the hero gains a lot of wisdom. It's like wisdom that maybe isn't privy to anybody else but them because of the fall, because of the pain, because of the physical repercussions of whatever they've gone through.
Yeah.
That enables them and imbues them with this divine kind of like, and by divine I mean like extraterrestrial, superhuman even, you know, like wisdom and ability. And so maybe that's what the Raven is showing him, is that, hey, you fell and you might think that you can never fly, like walk again, but what if you could fly?
Yeah.
It's like while you're so preoccupied with, you know, physical waking movements, like did you ever think about like using your mind to like what if you could fly?
Yeah,
You know, like who knows?
Yeah, and then I think that contrasts and also relates to everybody else too, because everyone kind of has this longing feeling, just like he now has with his physical abilities. Like everyone has this longing feeling of wanting to return home and wanting to, and so it's like broken things is everyone.
Yeah.
Everyone is a broken thing in this story. It's not just the ones who society in this case would deem as broken or cripple or bastard. It's everybody, and that's the reality of it.
Yeah.
It's that if you hold up a mirror to any one of these characters, they're all broken inside.
And even today, like most people are broken, but then also the Khaleesi said that she also wants to just go home, right?
Yeah.
So she has no real necessity for power plays and power politics. And it's her brother that basically lured her and forced her out of their home. And she would have been satisfied not having the Iron Throne and not having claim to the Seven Realms. Like she would have been fine. And so you see that if you have like because like I'm convinced that it's the advancements of civilization and the advancements of like communication and connection that leads us to basically like being deeply unsatisfied, if that makes sense.
Yeah, yeah.
Because I think that the more you go back, the more basically people were satisfied perhaps with their reality, with their current predicament. And versus today, like you can have everything and still feel like you have nothing. And then back then, like they had nothing. And I speak about this because, like, for example, if you go to Rio de Janeiro, right? If you go to Brazil and if you go into the favelas, it's like they're much happier than the people who live in the lofty kind of mansions and apartments and stuff, because they have a sense of community. And so if you have a sense of community, just like the Dothraki people have, then it seems like you don't really need to seek out more. It's like you're comfortable with what you have.
Yeah.
And I think that's why people want to go home. It's like if they could all go home and just live at peace with their families, they would be happier because of that. I think Catelyn would be happy having all her sons, even Jon the bastard, living around, you know, like just everybody staying put together in one place. But then duty calls and civilization comes knocking, and then you have to go. But yeah, I don't know if any of that made sense.
It does, but it's interesting you say that because it just goes to show with like what we see in King's Landing, which we already talked about. The idea that the more you have, the more you feel like you need more or you don't have, you know, versus when you have very little, when something presents itself to you, you're more likely to express gratitude and to be grateful for it because of how little off you're already starting, versus like when you have everything, it's kind of, what do you give the man who has everything?
Yeah.
You know, so then that's the whole conflict.
Yeah, and then also having everything but not really having anything.
Yeah, not having anything. Exactly. It's all empty. Like it's not
because you
true.
become numb, right? Like Robert Baratheon has a huge gaping void within his heart that he's avoiding and he's not really accounting for, or he's not going to therapy for. And so his answer to that is basically whoring around and more drinks and more whores and more. It's like he just wants more and more because the temporary fleeting sensory input is what's keeping him alive, essentially. It's like being constantly intoxicated, gorging, and indulging in these things is easier for him than confronting maybe the deep scars and the deep pains of war, of losing Ned's sister, you know, who he was in love with by all estimations, by the way that he speaks about her or speaks of her. and he sees his queen as just this political ploy that he has to basically live with and make work. But there's
Yeah.
no love there at all. It's like I think both of them hate each other.
Yeah, it's like an arranged marriage that
Yeah.
it was. Yeah.
It's not anything special.
Like that's the king is a little bit out of hand. I'm not gonna lie. I wanted to like him, but I don't know. I haven't seen many redeeming qualities in him.
Yeah, me neither.
I thought that what you pointed out too, tailoring the horse to the rider. I wrote that down too because I thought that was very, very interesting.
Which King Baratheon's horse again was too high.
Yeah.
And he wasn't even able to get off his own horse.
And speaking of horses that are too high, that knight that ended up dying in the joust, his horse was too high because when someone who was not a knight presented himself and said, which was the lord in Ned's kind of whatever part of Ned's men, he told him like Ned is is relaying this message and stuff, and then he's like, are you a knight? Okay, so I can't be bothered with you essentially. And then what ends up happening is that his pride meets his fall essentially, or his fall. Yeah.
Pride cometh before the fall.
Yeah. So he was on this high horse, like, I'm a knight. I can't be preoccupied with this. Like, I have knightly stuff to do. Are you a knight? No. Okay. And then he ends up dying. He ends up falling off of his high horse, literally. So I thought that was interesting. Speaking of horses.
High horse. Yeah. High horse.
Dion is a captive, and I thought that was crazy because I didn't know that he was a captive. So there was a battle between his family, the Greyjoys and the Starks,
and apparently the Lannisters too,
Yeah.
because Jaime was recounting the war against those people.
Yeah, I wonder what that's all about. But
Yeah, there seems like there's a very complex list, because if you think about the book that Ned got, where it was telling the whole lore of that world, I can imagine that that's probably what's in the Game of Thrones books.
Yeah.
Right? And then we plan on reading those as well. Like after we finish this series, maybe like we'll like jump into those and discuss them on the podcast, and maybe even dissect them chapter by chapter, maybe if you guys are interested. But it seems like that, like there's a lot of like connections. It's like a big web, because when Catelyn made her final speech and she's like pointing at different houses and she's saying all these names, guys, I failed history.
Yeah.
I am the worst with names, dates, connections. It's like, man, my brain is gonna have a hard time, but I'm gonna make sure that I write everything down, and I might like create like a bigger sheet where I'll go back in this episode and I'll write down everything and just,
yeah, and then draw like a web of
Yes,
connections and
exactly.
stuff.
A mind web is what I call it.
Yeah. And then, well, what I was going to say is that what's interesting, right, is the idea that Dion is a captive, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so he's not a Stark. And then I thought that was interesting because Tyrion is so good at reading people. Like he sees right through people, and that's why I'm not entirely convinced that he doesn't know what's going on with his brother and sister. And so again, like I don't know if he's involved in like trying to cover it up, but I don't get that whiff from him.
I don't get that whiff from him either. Like I truly don't, because there's no reason for him to give Jon Snow advice or any courtesy, really, like he seems like, just like you're saying, like he does seem too knowledgeable to not know the obvious, which is this affair between the two brothers,
Yeah.
And he spends a lot of time, it seems, with both of them, or at least with Jaime. Jaime seems to have more of a warmth towards him because of that scene where he comes and he sits down, and then he's like, good morning, siblings, or good morning, brother, sister. And then Cersei immediately walks away because she's like, she can't tolerate his presence at all. She's disgusted, whatever it is. But Jaime stayed there, and so it's not like both of them hate this particular person. It's like they don't Jamie seems to, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, like he seems to have like, some liking to him.
Yeah.
Which, so then that's what I was going to say too. It's like he seems to be so much more intellectual and so much like have so much more wisdom than anybody else that I started thinking, why would he have an assassin go with a dagger that was given to him? So it really doesn't make sense. So that's why I'm thinking that he's being
Framed.
yeah, like he's being framed for sure.
I think he's being framed as a scapegoat. I think it's pretty obvious. I think Catelyn made a wrong kind of like decision right there. Like I don't
Yeah.
think, again, like there's no real proof other than the dagger belonged to Tyrion, right? Is what they said.
It was given to him
It was
from
given.
Littlefinger. So then it's kind of like, there's like this whole, who gave it to Littlefinger and who.
And
why
who
did?
is Littlefinger really?
Yeah, like he's weird.
I don't. His face makes me uncomfortable. His like expressions make me uncomfortable. Yeah, like you can't really because usually I like to read people with their eyes. Like I can tell like the eyes to me are the most expressive part of the whole face. So everything else is either in accordance and in harmony with the eyes, or it's dramatically
Polarized, yeah, different.
yeah, different. Like it's in complete discord, and I don't know words today. Freaking disharmony,
yeah.
disharmony with the eyes, and then you could tell like you could tell by the eyes, and then from the eyes you use them as like a starting point, and then you measure everything else according to. But his eyes, in my point, like it's very hard to read. It's like he's very deceptive.
Yeah.
He's like, the smartest thing you did, Ned Stark, Lord Stark,
was
to distrust me. Yeah. And it's like, oh, so you can't really trust anybody.
Yes, and then so anyways, like just to say, I feel like Tyrion is really good at reading people. He especially reading people who are broken. And so that's why he can read Jon Snow is insecure about being a bastard. He could read that Bran is now feeling crippled, not just physically, but mentally, emotionally crippled by the state of his physical state, And then he sees that Dion is a broken person too, because he's this captive who's not with his family, an outsider who's just here taking orders from the Starks, right? And he's made to feel like he belongs, but he doesn't belong, and like he kind of like triggered that like insecurity in him, and then he was like, I'm a like Dion still try to express kind of pride in what he does.
Right. He's trying to replay the story that he's told himself to make his reality okay for him to exist in. But then Tyrion is the type who comes and rips the Band-Aid off of the whole disillusionment. It's like, hey, like good job. Like you've bought into the delusion that you're a part of this family now. Really, they convince you that you're one of them. Have you forgotten that you're just a slave of war? Like you've been captured.
But then, so what I was going to say to that is that he's been good at reading broken people and then also kind of igniting a little spark in them to make them believe in themselves still, right? But I feel like with Dion, there's like this weird difference that I sensed where he didn't take it the way that
Jon did?
Yeah, like the way that it was meant to. Like I think that he took it more personally, and he took like it exposed his insecurities, but it didn't strengthen him to like rise above it. It kind of just like put him in this weird like still state of like, how did you read me, and not really like, oh you've exposed me to this thing that I'm burying deep within, and now I can rise above it and be better for it, and kind of like,
Yeah, like Tyrion reminds me, again, I've mentioned this a few minutes before, but Tyrion reminds me of the awakened kind of prince, right? The awakened prince archetype, if you will, where he has access to nobility, title, wealth, and therefore he has a lot of time because of his disability, because of the fact that he's a dwarf, right? So he can't really step into any traditional shoes of king, of warrior, knight, of anything along those lines. But that doesn't mean that he doesn't have access to these three things.
Yeah.
And that's why when he walks into a place, he's obviously accompanied by guards and by maybe, like hitmen or whatever it is, his like squad, essentially, his boys. So he walks in, but he's always confident. He always has his chin up and his chest down, and he walks in and he speaks loud, and he's not cowardly walking in and trying to just, hide himself because he feels so ashamed. Like, he's owned it, right? So when you own who you are, that's when you become truly awakened, right? So you speaking on the broken pieces, all of these people that Tyrion interacts with, they seem like they're extremely broken and they're filled with all these broken pieces. But Tyrion had all these broken pieces, but he took the time and put the effort into reconciling all of his brokenness and then coming together and basically harmonizing his whole inner being, where there's nothing you can tell him that's going to hurt his feelings. Yeah. You can't insult him. You can't tell him anything that he already doesn't know about himself. Yeah. And so when he tells Theon something about himself that even he has basically made himself forget about, right? Because he's been telling himself this whole completely different story, that he's now a member of the Starks of the North, and he's here to serve and he's here to help and he has honor. But when Tyrion ripped the Band-Aid off and he made him basically look at the most apparent and most obvious broken pieces, that's when you see him kind of like buckle up, because then he's like, like basically Tyrion reflected back to him the boogeyman that Theon has been avoiding, which is the stark reality, no pun intended, the stark reality of his predicament, So Tyrion is the one that reconciles and is aware and has done his whole shadow integration and become an individual, like a full individual, ironically, when he's half the size of everybody else.
Yeah. And to your point, I think that that's where true freedom lies. It lies in the ability to be completely comfortable with yourself, to be completely self-assured, even if all of the odds are against you. Because if you are escaping from it, if you are avoiding it, if you are running from it, if you are denying it, then you will constantly live in an imprisonment that you are entrapping yourself in.
Right, which is what King Robert Baratheon is doing, know? Like, he has a lot of broken pieces and he's just drowning it out with some scotch and some bacalhau.
Some bacalhau.
Yeah.
Quero cheirar teu bacalhau, Maria.
Which bacalhau is fish.
But then what's interesting too is that another person, ironically, who is very similar to Tyrion but in an opposite way, is Samwell. I just
Samuel
wrote
Tarly, yeah.
Is Samwell because
Samwell.
Samwell.
Sam,
no.
well,
Well,
how's Samwell doing? Well, Sam, well,
Well, yeah. It's like, well.
Well, he has a lot of bacon on him.
He has a lot of bacon. Samwell, he is self-aware in the same way, except in his case, it's kind of in the pitfall of his insecurities, his flaws, and his weaknesses. So he can self-awarely say that he's a coward, right? And that might be something that not a lot of people are capable of doing. But then it's kind of it's like the opposite of Tyrion, who is very self-assured and who has a sharp tongue and who is also self-aware. But then in Samwell's case, he's self-aware, but it's very self-aware of his, of his weaknesses.
Right, because Tyrion realizes that the whole idea that the sword is more powerful than that the pen is more powerful than the sword, it does ring true.
Yeah.
Like, it's the ability to basically speak well, to know as many things as you can possibly know about the world, about power, about people, about human nature. Excuse me. Then that allows you to basically gain control and influence and manipulate all of the people. The majority of the people around him are probably illiterate, can't spell their names, can't read, because the ability to read and to know and to speak well was literally a noble thing, right? That was reserved for nobility, for royalty, especially back then. Like the further back in history you go, like the more limited the amount of people who actually had access to books, and fewer even were the people who were able to read the letters and the words contained in the book. Sorry guys, I have coffee burps.
And that's a great tool of power, because you keep people oppressed.
Yes.
Because then you write the laws and you write the rules, and people can't fully understand them. They can't fully grasp them, and so they can't contest to it.
I have a theory that still reigns true today. It's like that's why you have to go to law school, and you have to, and it's so difficult to become a lawyer, and it's even more difficult to be a judge. And I think that it's deliberately designed in a way where it's so confusing, like laws and the gray areas and the loopholes, like everything is so intricately designed. It's this infinitely complex web where it's designed to basically disorient everybody, you know, who comes in contact with the law.
Yeah.
And I think that it goes to your point. It's like the king would declare laws and write them, but very few people that he reigned over would be able to read them.
And then speaking,
much less understand them.
Yeah, and then speaking of that, right, is that in this case, the ability to read and write, just like you're saying, is it's preserved for the noble people. It's preserved for the people who have titles and who are part of families of high status and stuff. I think so. I think that that's true. So what's interesting is that Ned has been getting his ear filled all over King's Landing, right? Through speaking, right? Through speaking and whispers, right? It's like Littlefinger telling him like, oh yeah, that's a spy that belongs to this guy, and that one belongs to the queen, and this one belongs to me. And then it's like all of these things that he's being told, and then the Grandmaster or Master or whatever, the Grandmaster,
the old dude.
Yeah, he's like telling him stuff about how Jon Arryn died, but then he takes it upon himself to take the book because back then I think, and I think that this might be true in this story, is that the written word is going to be more valuable than anything that people are telling you.
And that's saying a lot, because back then when you would give somebody your word was worth its weight in gold.
Yeah.
Essentially. So being a man of your word meant something hundreds of years ago. Like it doesn't mean anything nowadays, because like people distort and people don't really honor anything anymore. But back then, it's like the weight of your words meant something. So if you took an oath, like if you took the black, then your word is as good as gold, essentially, you know.
Yeah.
And especially the written one, I can only imagine how much more kind of like permanent that probably feels.
Yeah, and that's why they would like stamp,
Yeah.
you know, like the letters and stuff, and you would do it in your handwriting with like a feather, and it's like it's very
And a feather of all things, right? Like literally everything was so imbued with symbolism and so imbued with depth. It's like an eagle's feather was used to write this declaration by the King Baratheon of the Seven Realms. He here declares under the power and the blessings of the sun god, whatever, and the moon god. And like everything was infinitely connected and in like just had so much meaning to it and so much weight to it, and now it's just like whatever, you know.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, but then that's exactly what I was gonna say, is that he's in a world where he can't trust anybody's word, and so he's gonna take it upon himself, and he's doing so kind of like stealthily, but then also making it known that he's inquiring, because which I feel like is his flaw a little bit. I feel like him exposing all of his cards isn't gonna really work in his favor. Like he should play his cards like a little bit more like closer to his chest, because he's in a world where people are all doing that. Like they all keep their cards kind of concealed.
He doesn't have any friends here, it doesn't seem.
And so he can't reveal his intentions, which he did with the queen, where he's like, yeah, like I'm, you know, like I also like
I was trained to kill my enemies.
Yeah.
Essentially, he's making a very indirect threat.
Yeah.
Basically, threatening the queen is what I understood indirectly, in a way where it's letting her know, like, hey, I ain't no bitch.
Yeah.
Mama ain't raised no wuss. Excuse my French.
I know. I want to meet his parents
Yeah.
because damn. But to my point is that he said like this is my job. Like him unraveling this like thread of truth that he's going after. He's saying that it's part of his job because he has to serve the realm. So even if it goes against the queen directly, if it goes against whosoever it is,
Even the king.
even the king, he's gonna do it because now that's his job as hand of the king, and like that's how much honor and integrity he holds. But what he doesn't realize is that it's like such a dangerous world, and like it just shows with the last hand of the king, specifically the hand of the king, who was supposed to be the trusty right hand, ends up losing his life somehow. It's kind of still up in the air how it was done, but it's like,
yeah, I don't think that he can come in on his noble and honorable high horse,
yeah,
come into this dirty game expecting anything other than more dirty games being played. And what's interesting, like you mentioned that he has to do his job. I found that so crazy too, because he was basically called and forced into this role by the king of the Seven Realms, by King Robert Baratheon. But then Robert is nowhere to be seen, and he's always off doing whatever he's doing. And like, it's just funny because if Robert had basically just communicated with him more and basically like been more present in this initial phase of adaptation that Ned is going through in King's Landing, like maybe he would know how to help him better. It's like if Robert basically told him like, listen, this is what I need help with. I need help with this and this and this and this. But essentially Ned goes in blind. He's completely alone. He has no friends. He has no allies. You know, he's surrounded by snakes. He's surrounded by spies. Everybody has a spy. Everybody has somebody on their payroll. Everybody has ears and eyes everywhere. So it's literally a game of information, but it's also a game of how to weaponize information for personal gain. And it's the will to power by any means. And it's power for the sake of its own thing. Like it's power for the sake of power.
Yeah.
So these people are addicted to power. They want power. They want to remain, you know, courtiers, and they want to remain part of the court, and they want to remain on the good side of whoever is ruling the realms and whoever's sitting on the Iron Throne. But I feel like it would have been so much more simple if Ned was basically just had Robert present, especially at that table. And I think that's why it shows that seat is vacant, because Ned is now, because like my point is, who do you trust? Like you can't trust any of the people who are advising the hand. So the one person that Ned thought he could trust, and who ironically believes that he can trust Ned, is Robert. And then Robert's missing. So how can these two old friends basically reinvent the kingdom and make it great again?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that they can't. It's like
they can't because Ned is now under the prying eyes, right?
Yeah.
Prying eyes of all the people around him who have spies, and you know who you can't trust.
And then to your point too, like I think that's why Cersei points out that he's just a soldier, and she says like you're just a soldier, aren't you? Because this is the point that I'm making, is that he's in a game right now, this game of like manipulation and lies and deception and operating in the shadows and secrets and whatever. A soldier is someone who abides by the rules. It's very clear cut. It's very like this is what you have to do. Like this is your duty, and you serve your duty, and that's it, right?
But in this case, he doesn't even know how to be a hand.
Yeah, but then to my point is that he has to relinquish his ways as a soldier, and he has to be adaptable to this new environment, because he's not doing that. He is doing that a little bit. He is
doing it, yeah.
But he's not in the sense of like
he's not basically stooping to their level.
Yeah, he's wearing too much of his armor and honor on his sleeve, and it's going to be a vulnerable point. Like it's going to be, it's kind of like
it's basically him going bare knuckle fist to a knife fight, and where everybody has a hidden dagger.
Because, like, for example, if it were me in his position, like, I wouldn't let the queen in on what I'm doing, especially knowing that she might be behind why my son is, like, crippled and stuff. It's like, I'm gonna make sure I like,
And behind why
faint
the
a
old
smile.
hand was killed.
Yeah, it's like you have to fake a smile around these
Yes.
people. You have to, like, that's how I
Yes.
think is the way you operate. It's like,
I completely
they're
agree.
all shady, and so that's my point, is what I mean with him, like, wearing too much of it on his sleeve. He is being, like, stealthy. He is, like, picking up on
Collecting
things,
information,
collecting information, reading without people knowing
doing
what
his research,
yeah.
looking around town, talking to people. But just like you're saying, when the queen comes and asks, like, what exactly are you hoping to accomplish here? He should have just smiled and said, well, I'm just here, my queen, to serve you and your
Yeah.
interests and the king. That is it.
Yeah.
It's like, and then just smile and just wait for her to leave.
Yeah.
Because, yeah, like what you're saying is true. Yeah.
It's
creating a blind spot.
Yeah.
His reliance on codes of honor and ethics and morality, like he's gonna basically like he has to adapt to the game
Yeah.
and put on the accessories that they're playing with,
Mhm.
because he's so used to playing a different game of honor and prestige and title.
And upholding the truth and
Yeah.
and loyalty and
Yeah.
like all these things, but there's none of that here.
And then that leads me to believe, because of the conversation he had with Catelyn in, I believe she called it the God's Wood or something, that little forest with that tree and the pond, which reminds me of Kung Fu Panda. Ned alluded to the fact that the old gods is what he believes in, and that Catelyn's new gods are like messed up the whole religion, or whatever they like talked about.
Yeah.
But there's the new gods and there's the old gods. Ned seems to have faith in the old gods, and so him being the most morally upright person who believes in a very clear-cut code of ethics, I think that it has to have some form of religious influence, and I might be wrong, but I'm curious to see how they unravel the whole religious aspect, because they haven't really showed how that influences the kingdom.
Yeah.
You know?
And it makes sense too, because I was just checking. It makes sense too because Robert Baratheon, the king, he doesn't seem to be involved in like the political scheme of things either. He's so
care.
I don't know how much help he would be to Ned anyways, like in these particular matters, because he's so out of touch. Like he's been so out of touch with his kingdom that he doesn't even know, like, I don't think that he knows the
inner machinations.
yeah,
of,
like all of
yeah.
this manipulation. Like he doesn't even know that his wife is sleeping with her brother.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like, I don't know, like it's what you're saying. It's like if it's their religion or whatever it is, but yeah, I think it's just very like.
Wouldn't you think that Robert Baratheon would take more interest in his kingdom after his hand was murdered, instead of doubling down on drinking and doubling down on his other activities? Like, that's what I'm saying, though, is that this should have been a wake-up call for him, that your kingdom is in jeopardy. Your family, your wife's family is conspiring against Stark's family.
But he's completely oblivious.
I know, but that's what's, like, concerning me a lot. And also, what are the implications of Catelyn Stark accusing Tyrion of attempting to murder her child without any real solid proof, other than a dagger, which could have easily been stolen and, like, misplaced. Who knows? Planted.
Yeah.
So it's just interesting. It's like there's a lot of stuff going on, and again, the king is nowhere to be found. The king only shows up when it's something to do with entertainment, and when he wants to see someone die. Like he wants to see something happen that's going to amuse him and fill him with some form of emotion, because he's so numb to everything.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. This kingdom's gonna fall apart.
I know.
I pointed out that Daenerys referred to the Dothraki as her people now, And I thought that that was interesting. Like you can kind of see her stepping up to her brother, like when she used her defense attack against him
Defense attack.
when he
This is
slapped
like
her.
Yu-Gi-Oh. I
Defense
activate
attack.
my monster in defense mode.
But then, anyway, so it shows that she's kind of like stepping into her new power as the Khaleesi, and she's like shedding that fear that her brother instilled in her, which I think is very honorable. Like she's stepping into her strength and kind of empowering herself and just being able to speak up for herself, and that's really interesting to see.
I think that it's cool because she had two versions of victimhood. She had victimhood with her brother, and then she had her initial perceptions of victimhood with the Dothraki Khal Drogo. And then slowly she starts to realize now that one of these is not actually meant for her to live in this victimhood forever. And then she awakens to her power and to her ability to basically transcend and transform her experience into a pleasurable one, which is literally shows like through sex, right? Because sex is literally pleasure, and but like it shows pleasure. And so I think that even that isn't necessarily just for the horny teenagers out there watching Game of Thrones. You want to see naked people? It's like, I don't think it's just that. I think that it's all a plot device.
Yeah.
You know, it's a plot device to showcase something. And I think that, it's just interesting because she realized that it's much better to be a victim of Khal Drogo than it is to be a victim, a literal victim to her own brother.
Yeah.
And so she's choosing this foreign man and these foreign people over her own blood, over her own dragon blood.
Yeah, and then that's when Jorah is his name?
Jorah.
He asks her like, "Do you want to see your brother on the throne?" And she says no.
She said,
But
hell no.
But I think that if she were asked if she wanted to see Khal Drogo on the throne, she might say yes.
I think
that she's become fond of him, and she doesn't see him as a bad guy. She thinks that he's honorable because he's earned his braid. He's earned it through victories. Her brother hasn't won any victories, she says, and so
she knows that her brother's a coward,
Yeah,
right? Because like they grew up together.
and so like that's what she's seeing now. It's like, you don't control me and you don't like pull the strings anymore. Now I'm stepping into this role that's kind of above yours, if you ask me, you know?
Because he's relying on his army.
Yeah.
So he has leverage over. There's nothing really that the brother can offer other than connection to his family. You know, and that's very true.
I think that he has like the dragon nature through his name only, but then she kind of embodies it more. Like his is very corrupted.
His
you
is
know?
very bratty,
Yeah.
where he feels entitled because of his heritage, because of the color of his hair, right? And because of the fact that one of the old kings, I don't know if it's the Mad King, but one of them was a Targaryen, right? And so he feels like he just wants to return to the glory days where his family was always kind of like on the throne.
Yeah.
And just quickly touching on that scene with Jorah also pointed out an interesting fact too, like a very interesting thing, where the common people don't really care about the politics and the snaky exchanges of the nobility and the upper classes. Like they usually have to focus on survival. It's like they have to be able to feed everybody in their household. They have to be able to work and earn a living. They have to be, so there's focus on the more basic aspects of nature and life. And that's what I'm saying, is that civilization, or the perversion of civilization, is that it's completely distorted and used for the sake of accumulating power and more power. And so when you have advancements, for example, in technology, usually it's at the benefit of a small group of people. Like if you have, for example, the creation of Facebook, right? It's packaged as like, oh, like you'll connect with your friends and you'll whatever. But it has over the years proven to kind of accomplish the exact opposite, which is create more of a disconnect and create more of a reliance on this drug, on this dopamine device, and has benefited a small group of shareholders and the creator of the technology. And so it's usually the case where civilization comes in the guise of progress and prosperity, and that's the whole kind of like America going to all the countries around the world, and it's like, we came here to bring civilization, and then cut to like years and years of war and American oppression within that land, like it's the whole imperialism.
Imperial, yeah.
Yeah, like it's as old as time, but I feel like that was like a little small nugget, which is like the common people will always love, in my opinion, a king who cares for them and who provides for them. It doesn't matter what title you are. It doesn't matter what color hair you have. As long as you make everybody's life somewhat manageable and somewhat not horrible, then they'll love you. You know, it's like that's how you gain the love of the people. And I think that's what he was reassuring her, is that this illusion that the brother tells himself every day, and and tells her that everybody's waiting for him, it's all a projection of his own grandiosity.
Yeah, he's got like a freaking god complex or something.
Napoleon complex.
Napoleon, yeah. Okay, I'm gonna go through this pretty quick. When he was talking to the girl, she was like saying that when the brother was talking to the girl, I don't know what else to refer to her as. I don't want to refer to her as anything inappropriate.
The girl that he bought.
The girl that he bought. That's
such a weird thing to say.
She was saying that they can fly and they can kill, and like that's why she's so mesmerized by finding out more about the dragons. And I think that that's interesting because she was sold into a pleasure house at a very young age, and so she was kind of imprisoned in a sense. And so the ability to fly and the ability to kill is kind of this reflection of maybe what she wished she could have done in whatever dire situation she found herself in. Like the ability to fly from one place to another in a few flaps of the wings, she said, or to be able to kill people on the spot, which dragons are able to do. They just blow fire and then you're dead. And so it's like a reflection of like maybe what she wished she could embody and what she wished she could have had in those moments that she struggled with these strange men from all over the world.
Abusive.
Doing God knows what to her. Because
Yeah.
even he like just drags her across and is abusing her. And, you know, it's like, it's sad.
And here's a crazy thing, like, while most people are horrified by dragons and seek to slay them, she views them as a symbol of freedom.
Yeah.
Which is interesting. It's like a symbol of freedom because maybe like being a dragon or mounting a dragon and befriending a dragon is probably less scary than whatever she had to undergo in the pleasure houses growing up.
Yeah.
You know, like being kind of, man, it's really crazy. It's really interesting. Yeah, it's very interesting.
Being tortured and
yeah.
She said that she met men who would change their face, like they change their clothes, and that she met like pirates with silk. And I think that that's interesting. Like she's been around, and I think that that's what gives her like a little bit of an edge to her. Yeah, because of the experience that she has from exploring and traveling. And
but one other interesting mentally gone parallel that I just thought of was like Tyrion and the girl that was bought to teach the Khaleesi, right?
Mm-hmm.
There's a parallel there because both the girl and Tyrion have both been around, right? Like they've slept around with a bunch of people. And I feel like they have a lot of experience and they have a lot of wisdom gained through that experience, gained through knowing people on a deeper level. And no pun intended, like through the act of them kind of laying with so many different people, that's when they probably hear the most vulnerable aspects of the people that they're laying with. You know, it's when they're completely naked, essentially, right? Like they're naked lying together, and that's when they can kind of connect on a human level. Because when everybody's naked, like that's why when you go on a stage, people say, picture everybody in the audience naked, and that'll make you more comfortable. Because I think it humanizes everybody. It takes off the illusion of identity. It takes off the layers of armor. It takes off the titles of knight, of queen, of prince, of lord. It takes everything off, and then you become skin and bone and flesh like everybody else.
Yeah.
And so on that level, which nowadays it's called pillow talk, right? It's like the pillow talk is where they gain access into different worlds.
Yeah.
And that seems to be a common recurring thing here. And even with Ned Stark and his bastard's mother, we don't know too much about that. But then you have Robert Baratheon with Ned's sister. And so you have these men who fall deeply for these women that they sleep with. And it's usually because of probably that like connection, especially in a world where it's incessant war and it's incessant instability, and you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, it's the stories shared in those like vulnerable moments, like especially after, you know, engaging in what I said, like I think it was in the last one, is like, or the last Game of Thrones, is the idea that is like a very intimate thing, and like it's an exchange of energy. And so when you do that, and then after the fact there's like the laying together,
The pillow talk.
and so it's what you're saying, it's like the openness to talk, and that's what she said too. It's that she's experienced so many men who have told her so many stories, and then that's how she learned the story of the moon and the dragons and stuff. And so it's exactly what you're saying. It's like being around in that way in this world gives people insight to different stories, even if they can't reach different regions, they can reach it through people who have been through different regions. And then it's kind of like this, you're traveling without traveling. You're traveling through the words of mouth from this like aftermath of the act of love making, you know?
Which is why they would always throw banquets and like lavish dinners to welcome guests and stuff, because then they would all get super drunk and intoxicated, and then when you're in that state, you also relinquish all of the ego-ness. You know, like you become more, because I think it's safe to say that everybody watching this, when you get drunk, for example, as a teenager, like obviously not as a teenager, as of age, right? Because all of us only drank when we turned 21, right? Right, guys? Or in Brazil, 18, right? It's like, but like my point is that like when you drink, you become more loose and you become more like, it's considered a social lubricant for a reason. Like it's literally considered a social lubricant, and so that's why wine, especially, like they would drink wine and they would talk about stories and share vulnerabilities and share aspects of themselves that they wouldn't normally share if they weren't intoxicated.
Yeah.
But then it's through alcohol, through sharing a drink, through sharing an experience like war, through sharing a kingdom, and through sharing a bed.
Yeah.
I feel like back then that was the Facebook kind of like add a friend. It's like if you had one of these 4 things together, then you guys are basically buddies. And you can add them to your iPhone contacts.
Yeah, your connection list, which is what we see Catelyn doing. It's like you know my father, and you know. It's just pointing them all out.
My father will hear about this.
Okay, let's see. I thought it was interesting that Sansa said that what if she only has girls, which we already talked about. It's like the idea of like expectations, and I do feel bad for her. I feel like it's not her fault. Like I know that I was kind of like, it's kind of your fault that lady died, you know. But I feel like it's not her fault. Like she's just a kid, and she's young, and she's like romanticizing the life. But then the irony, I think that when like Littlefinger is telling her the story of the Hound and his brother, like putting his face into the fire, I think that it's opening her eyes and giving her this new realization of the harsh realities of living
life.
Of like living in the royal palace and stuff, and it's not all sunshines and rainbows, and it's not as romanticized as maybe she thought it was in her dreams, or what she envisioned it to be.
Yeah, because even her asking like, oh, like members of my family were murdered in this room.
Yeah.
And they were.
Yeah.
You know, so yeah.
So I think that that's what we're finally seeing. It's like the shedding of her innocence and her kind of like navigating this life and navigating away from her naivety. How do you say that? Like
Naivete.
naivete and you know
Yeah.
establishing herself a little bit more in this world where people just want to manipulate and pull strings.
Which also another parallel with Khaleesi, right?
Mm-hmm.
With the Targaryen girl, because just like Sansa, both of them get dropped into this world that they didn't really choose per se. Even if Sansa had more of a conditioning, of a positive conditioning system, prior to arriving at King's Landing or prior to being given the opportunity to marry into royalty,
Yeah.
versus Khaleesi or the Targaryen girl. What's her name?
Daenerys.
Daenerys.
Yeah.
So versus Daenerys. Daenerys was conditioned by her brother, and she was conditioned to believe that she's worth nothing, that she's less than dirt, and that she's nothing but a tool for her brother to achieve and conquer all the realms and regain his throne. And then Sansa was probably told fairy tales of like beautiful visions of like future with kids and little princes and princesses and reigning over kingdom and everything's flowery and beautiful. But both of them are very similar in that they were plucked from their own sense of agency and they weren't really allowed to make their own decisions, and fate and destiny basically was thrusted upon them.
Yeah.
And they had to accept it, and they had to like wake up and they're in King's Landing or they're among the Dothraki tribe and they have to just adapt and they have to make it work.
Yeah. Yeah, and I would love to see Sansa like step up more for
Right.
herself the way her sister does and just be more self-assured and to be more and not to fall into the trappings, because she's worried about if she'll be able to have boys and if Joffrey's gonna like her still and like all of these things, but that's all just like a trap,
Yeah. I feel like the one thing that's always missing is the guidance of the parents, man. It's like why isn't Catelyn there with Sansa, like guiding her and aiding her and basically giving her reassurance and giving her direction? And then where's Ned with his boys? It's like I feel like the parents' absence is usually very telling also.
Yeah.
Because Sansa is similar to her father, is being handled by people of King's Landing. Like that lady was probably there and she's assigned to, but who's assigning that lady? Is it Cersei? Is it Littlefinger? Like is that old lady one of the spies? Who knows?
Yeah.
And that's what I'm saying is like, who do you trust? And trust is a big thing here.
And I think that that's what to what you're saying. Like, I think that's why the queen pointed out that Sansa is more like her mother and that they're not really of the north. And so I think there's this idea that their pack, right? Because the Starks are the dire wolves. They're a pack, right?
Mhm.
Their pack is falling apart because they're not aligned. And so that's why the wolves howling was mentioned again. It's when wolves howl, it's to reunite the pack.
And it's also to keep away any
And to
foreign
keep away
packs,
rivals, yeah.
rival packs, yeah.
And so the idea is that I think that, like, to what you're saying is that I don't know, like they just, it would be great if her mom was there and helping her and guiding her, but I think that that's the irony. It's that their pack isn't solidified because they don't all hold the same principles and ideals and they don't even hold the same faith. And so
But that's again, like that's the problem. Like that's due to maybe the neglect of the parents.
yeah.
Because maybe they didn't raise them to be a unified pack where they care about each other in a more substantial way. It's like obviously Robb, who is the current Lord of Winterfell, he cares about his little brother Bran. He cares about Theon Greyjoy, it seems, and they're pretty like friendly with each other. Like he doesn't treat him like shit. I didn't see. And Jon even is friendly with all of them, right? And Arya and Sansa. So they kind of like they are unified, but they're not really kind of like caring in a warm way towards each other. It doesn't seem.
I think they're like the fact that they're all just scattered
Yeah.
now is what's making it so difficult, because the mom feels like she has priorities to figure out who killed her son, and so now
Or who
she's
tried to kill her
neglecting
son.
or cannot kill her son, who tried to kill her son, and now she's neglecting like all of her other children, and then the father, Ned, is too preoccupied with figuring out these like conspiracies at play, that he's neglecting his kids a little bit. Not neglecting, because he's like helping Arya and stuff, and he tried to help Sansa, but there's only so much he can do as a dad, like he can't help a woman or a lady.
Yeah, he can't be everywhere because he has his own responsibilities and he has to help himself.
Yeah, and he's the hand of the king. Like he's fulfilling the duty of the king.
The highest order.
Yeah, and so he's preoccupied, and so I think that it's just this idea that they're all over the place and they all have all these different trains of priorities, that they don't have it straight. Like they don't have their priorities straight.
Pick me.
Your turn.
Again, here's another mentally gone thing, right? That you mentioned the whole the musician in the end scene at the pleasure house who offered to sing for Catelyn and her guy, and then offered to sing for Tyrion, who said about the howling wolves. He said that up in the north, there's not much music at all, and there's only the howling of wolves.
Mm-hmm.
And how the more south you go and towards King's Landing, there's music, right? Probably. I think that's so crazy to think about, because it's what you're saying. It's like the closer you are to the north, and the closer you are to winter, and the more you've experienced winter, and the closer you are to the wall and what's beyond the wall, and the dangers, and it's cold and it's frigid and it's isolated. There's no reason really to sing, right? Because like singing, like sure, you can derive, like you can source a song from pain, and a lot of the best songs and most of the greatest songs are derived from pain. But the songs of wolves, man, like there's something incredibly deep there that I can't really unpack right now because I'm operating with half a brain today. But you know what I'm saying? It's like you go to the north and the only songs you hear are the cries of the wolves. And the cries of the wolves in and of themselves are a form of music. It's the song of wolves, But then what you said, like when the wolves cry, it's usually to unify their pack back together. It's to signal to other members of the pack, but it's also to repel any rival gangs and any rival packs. So it's all very like primitive. It's a survival cry. It's a cry of survival. And then my point is that when you venture towards the capital and you go towards King's Landing, where it's the hub of just prosperity, and it's the hub of lavish living, and the sun's always shining, and it's sunlight, and it's beautiful, but it's, that's where you hear the song of like many different songs.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Hopefully that makes sense.
It does make sense. It does. It's like the songs of nature versus the songs of like,
the songs of survival versus the songs of excess, essentially.
Of celebration.
Drunken excess.
Yeah. Let's see. Sam was threatened by his father. Oh, what I thought was interesting is that I thought of the name Samwell, and then I thought of the name Samwise from Lord of the Rings. And I thought of this idea of like the trusty companion, the loyal companion who's kind of like unsuspecting and has this underlying value, right? That what you wouldn't assume based on their appearances, but they are the most kind of like the most reliable, the most dependent confidants that you can have, which is what Jon is now finding with Sam. It's the first time we saw him like genuinely share a connection and a conversation with somebody, and on a level that there's relating and there's connecting, and
genuine trust building too. Like it doesn't seem like Samwell has any ulterior motives, any hidden cards up his sleeve, like any weird kind of like eye thing. Like I didn't pick up anything. I picked up a genuinely vulnerable, lost human who is deeply afraid of the world, and the world has been harsh to him. And Jon sees that as like a reflection of maybe his own inner self and his own innocence, you know, like maybe it's a projection and it's the embodiment of his own kind of innocence that was murdered through his experience in life, and so now he wants to protect or at least lessen the blow and the pain for Samwell.
Yeah.
But I never even thought about the Samwise Samwell connection. It's so obvious too. Like now,
Yeah.
like I was like, oh my god, how did I not see that? That's crazy.
And so many books took their inspiration from J.R.R. Tolkien, so
Yeah.
it makes sense. This was based on this show is based on books written. I think the author that people said was George
R.R. Martin.
R.R. Martin
is what people say. Yeah.
So it just makes sense that there's like the parallels, you know, there's the inspiration and the, you know.
So Jon is Frodo, is what you're saying.
Yeah, he
Huh.
could be like a Frodo, yeah.
I'm actually write that down.
And then Samwell is Samwise. Like, he's like the unsuspecting kind of like
That's great.
see beyond the appearance a little bit. But then what I was gonna say is this: is that, what was I gonna say? Oh, so what I was gonna say is that Samwell, not Samwise, Samwell, his biggest like crippling factor is his disbelief in himself.
Yes.
So he doesn't believe in himself enough to swing the sword. Like he just says, I can't do it, and accepts his defeat. And now we know that that's linked to the trauma inflicted by his father threatening to kill him and basically forcing him to go to the wall and to just strip everything away from him, his family, his everything, and willing to lie to the mom about how he dies if he were to have to kill him for refusing to go to the wall and like all these things.
He would die from an accident falling from his
Yeah.
horse. But I think that his biggest fear is death.
Yeah.
Because when the general guy on the wall like walks in and he's talking to Jon and he's talking to Samwell, when he goes close to Samwell, he says that he basically threatens to eat him, right?
Yeah.
Like he creates this scenario where he would be eaten and he would be, you know, like of great use because of the meat on his body and the meat on his bones. And then you could see Samwell Tarly like quivering. It's like quivering at the thought of dying and then having his body eaten.
Yeah.
So I think that his biggest fear is death, because even when he contemplates or he doesn't want to swing the sword, I think it's fear of what's to follow if he does attack somebody. You know, it's like he's going to get attacked in return and they're going to kill him. And so I think that there's a fear of death there.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Even heights, right? Because like that's the big irony, is that death is probably all that they find beyond the wall, and that's why everybody talks about Beyond the Wall as one of the hardest experiences of their lives. I think it's because like death is literally waiting for everybody beyond the wall, and they've been keeping it from civilization for so long, you know. But then winter is coming, you know, like winter is bleak and it's dark and it's scary, but winter is also a analogy for, or is analogous to death itself.
Yeah.
And it's usually personified in ancient stories and in grimoires and in occult philosophy books. It's always like the elements and the seasons are representative of different stages of humanity, different stages of civilization. It's the rise, it's the fall, it's the harvesting seasons, it's the sunny seasons, it's the winter where there's no food, and but it all goes in a cycle. It's always cyclical.
And it is, because winter is when all of the trees die, like the leaves are completely fallen, and so winter is death. It's like
Winter's death.
Yeah.
But then death is the harbinger of rebirth.
Yes.
Right? So death is a prerequisite for birth.
Yeah.
It's like there is no birth without death first,
Yeah.
you know? And just real quick, like death being a prerequisite for birth, what I mean by that also is like death of an old thing has to happen in order for the birth of a new thing to happen.
Yeah.
So it doesn't have to be a literal negative connotation that we usually attribute to death itself, but death is in essence neither good nor bad.
Yeah.
Because nothing's really good or bad, right? Like that's how we perceive reality through our limited perceptions of duality and polarity. But when you rise above everything and you view everything as kind of like a necessary evil or a necessary good, then everything can kind of fit into that category of necessary. Things just are the way they are, and everything serves a purpose is what I believe in.
Yeah.
You know?
I believe, yeah, I agree. I believe in the same thing too. I think that they're like you take the good and the bad,
Yeah.
and that there everything is for the greater good.
Yeah.
It's like everything is, even if it doesn't seem that way in the moment, even if it's completely terrible, if it's completely lost, if it's whatever it is, it will always be followed by good.
Yeah.
It's like I think
It's
that
always
that's
up and down, right? Like that's basically a wave function, has its peaks and its valleys.
But I think that it's always ultimately for the good. I feel like you're always on a steady, even if it's not steady, but you're always on an incline. I feel like you face bad and then you come up even higher from like higher good from it.
Which is what we experienced, like speaking of Lord of the Rings, it's what we experienced with the Return of the King.
Yeah.
At the end, like the sun was peeking through the darkness, and so the light always outshines or overcomes any darkness that's prevailing for a period of time. So there's a small period where it seems like everything's hopeless, which is usually during the winter when it's bleak and it's dark out and there's no food and there's no water, there's no heat, and you don't even know if the sun is going to pop up again ever again. But then it always does. And I think that that's just life. You know, like life is meant to be designed that way. But for whatever reason, I think also that things are more good than bad.
Yeah, I think so too.
Yeah.
I do. And I think, just like I'm saying, I think that everything always is for the good. And so, like, I don't know.
Because
Like,
it's all geared towards progress and expansion, right?
Yeah.
Because if we go to the whole theory of the universe expanding infinitely, then everything is geared towards expansion and growth and progress. Versus if you believe that everything is kind of restricting and just getting smaller and smaller.
Yeah. I don't think it ever is. Like, I don't think. But, anyways, I'm almost done. I only have like a few more. I wrote down Varys is called the spider, and I thought that was interesting. It's kind of like this intricate web, right, that we're seeing, like these webs of lies and the webs of deception, and it's just this big sticky web that if you get caught in it, like you're gonna be essentially prey for the spider. Like you're gonna get entangled and you're gonna get eaten.
And spiders are also highly symbolic of like weavers of destiny.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, like that could be interesting. Like to call someone the spider means that they have a big role in weaving the destiny of everyone who gets caught in their web. Because if you call someone the spider of the web, and there's an intricate web, and you find an intricate web, you're out for a walk, and you see this huge intricate web, which is called King's Landing, it's called Game of Thrones, it's intricate. And then you see all these characters kind of stuck on it. You wonder, like, wow, like how big or how powerful is the spider who wove this?
Yeah.
And he's the spider, so we have to keep an eye on him.
Yeah, and spiders operate in the dark. They're nocturnal creatures, and so he's probably someone who, because he has his little birds or whatever I wrote here, so he operates in the shadows, and then he uses the birds because birds fly to all regions and to all people and return back to him. And birds are obviously in this case not actual birds, but they could be. But
they are ravens too, like messenger ravens, which is what Catelyn said, right? Like Catelyn said it was dangerous and that her sister was risking her life.
Yeah.
Communicating, right?
Yes.
Because Jon Arryn is the
sister's husband,
deceased husband of Catelyn's sister, right?
So it makes sense too why Ned is like so preoccupied with it. It's technically his brother-in-law.
His brother-in-law.
It's like it's his family. He wants to know what happened, like the truth of what happened.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that's interesting. Spider with his little birds, and the queen has spies, and Littlefinger has spies, and they all have spies. And it's just funny because you can only have your eye on so many things at once, and so you need to have spies to have eyes everywhere. And then that's what Ned Stark's helper guy was like telling him, is like there's eyes all over here. Like maybe we shouldn't be here when they go to the armory or whatever to meet Gendry. And he says, I don't care, like, let them see.
Which might be an oversight, ironically. Like, it might be him, again, relying too much on these ethical codes, which in this land doesn't fly, like it doesn't work.
It doesn't work. It doesn't. It's not upkept, and we see it because people get entangled in messes that end up being potentially fatal and lethal. You know, and yeah.
Yeah, like he should have visited that blacksmith Gendry in the black of night.
Yeah.
Under the blanket of night.
Yeah, and wearing a helmet, wearing that helmet that he wanted to have.
Wearing those like Mr. Potato glasses with the mustache and the big nose.
Yeah.
And then like Ned Stark pops
like,
in and he's like,
"What was Jon Arryn doing here?"
"What was Jon Arryn?" I'm definitely not Ned Stark.
A shark on a mountaintop is how they refer to Theon. They said that he's like a shark on a mountaintop.
So that's a compliment, right? Because they view him as a shark. Well, not a compliment in the literal sense. Obviously, a shark can't really be mobile.
But yeah, you're right.
But they didn't call him like a catfish.
Yeah, I get exactly what you're saying. So that means that whoever his family is, they're pretty...
For all the kingdoms to come together to fight his family, which is what it sounds like, right? Because Jaime Lannister was fighting alongside the guy who was with Ned Stark.
Yeah.
And then Ned Stark said, like, right?
Yeah, and then I just remembered Theon told Tyrion, we were outnumbered 10-1. 10 maybe different houses against their one. So it's like, is that even a fair fight?
Damn.
That's not even a fair fight.
Yeah, and I was here thinking that there were like only 4 houses, but from what Catelyn was talking about, like she mentioned a bunch of names which I can't process in my head right now.
I didn't even write those
But she was
down.
like, you, house of bada bada bada, and you bada bada bada, and your father bada bada bada. And then it's like, damn, it's like 1, 2, 3 more, 4 more. It's like, how many houses are there?
I just heard that someone's turning 90 and getting another wife.
Happy birthday, by the way.
I was like, damn, another. What do you mean another wife?
Yeah.
What are you talking about? 90 years old?
Damn, he wants another wife at 93.
I
didn't even know that they could live as long as that. Back, like, wasn't the life expectancy like 25?
Yeah, but people
If
are
you're
saying
lucky,
that
30.
this isn't really meant to be like exactly medieval times. Like, remember, it's still a fictional. It's still like a fantasy world. So I guess though they could probably live till like 150 for all we know.
Do you guys think? Here's a question for everybody watching, and if you guys could share your thoughts down below, and maybe this is what we use as a signal to basically prove that you've watched up until this point. If you can answer my question, do you think that there is such thing as 100% fiction in this world? Like, do you think it's possible to write a story that's 100% fiction? I just want people to answer yes or no, and then explain why.
Okay, I have an answer to that.
I have my opinion too, and we'll answer our thoughts if with people in the comments.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then to ourselves after
Yes.
this is over, so we get to answer it first.
Yes. Oh my God, she's drowning. Don't hold the microphone, lady. Freaking amateur over here. If you can like hold on to the microphone. When you cough, it's like it's just better to just cough in the microphone than.
I couldn't think fast and.
You good?
Yes.
You need water?
Jon Snow is a name that you get if you're a bastard from the north. So there's probably other Snows. So he is Snow, right? Because he's a bastard from the north. And then he said that he didn't want to have another bastard named Snow because it's not a good life. And I think that that's interesting why he was so willing to turn down this girl who was sold into
Ross.
Yeah, Rose, right? Rose, yeah. Ross or whatever. But why he was so quick to turn down this
opportunity.
This opportunity with this girl who lays around with multiple people is because he doesn't care to have a lineage even before he turns to the Night's Watch.
Right, because of the idea of legacy, right?
Yeah,
because then he's going to just deliver a child into this world with no real survival rate essentially, because
Yeah.
the son of a bastard is probably worse than being a bastard.
Yeah.
It's kind of like doubly worse, right?
Yeah.
It's like, I don't know.
And then what he said too, it's like he has no idea who his mother is, and so he doesn't even know if his mother is one of those women and who she was, and yeah.
Pick me.
Your turn.
Here's another mentally gone thought. Isn't it interesting how like back then, to constitute a family and to create a family, it was strictly for purposes of like purposes of political gain and purpose of I forgot the name, practicality or usefulness.
Yeah.
Versus building a family for the sake of experiencing that gift.
Yeah.
Of like having a son, having a daughter, being a father, right? Like that goes out the window because it's more utilitarian is I think the word I was looking for. It has to serve a purpose. It has to like, you have to have a child for the sake of like, even before you contemplate having a child, you have to envision how their whole lives is going to possibly pan out in order for you to have that. And usually you only envision the aspects of like political gain and how the child is going to survive in this world that's very locked into hierarchy and very locked into titles and locked into functions and roles and characters, and it's all a set, right? Like just like Shakespeare says, all the world's a big stage.
Yeah.
But there's no real like focus on just the core values of being a family man and being a family person and being a dad, a father, you know, a son.
We see that. I feel like we see that a little bit with the Starks, a little bit,
Yes.
which is why Ned is okay with like Arya not conforming to the traditional ways of, you know.
Ned seems like a good dad.
Yeah.
Who's a dad for the sake of a dad. Because if Arya told him, like, I don't want to be a lady, I don't want to get married, I don't want to play that little role of princess, and Ned was like a guy who's only interested in power and only interested in political gain, then he would have told her right there, like, he would have slapped the shit out of her and said, no, you're not.
Yeah.
You're going to be a fucking, you're going to be a lady. You know, like, he could have exploded and just be like, what are you talking about? No more lessons, no more needle, and break the needle. Bah!
Yeah.
You know, it's like he could have done that, but then instead he's being a father, and he's like, whatever makes my daughter happy, as long as she's happy, as long as she's safe, then I'll be happy.
And I thought that was beautiful when he was like saying like, you'll marry, you know, a lord, and she was like, no, like she's like, that's not me. And I feel like he saw her in that moment and he just understood. And I feel like that's something that, you know, that you probably don't see a lot of in these dynamics at all. It's like it's kind of set. It's like, okay, if you're a girl, you're going to be courted, you're going to have children, you're going to marry. That's what you got to do. It's part of the gender roles a little bit. And then if you're a man, you're either going to become a knight or you're going to become something else, or you're going to become the lord, and you have to be able to rule. You have to be able to lead. You have to be able to, you know, take orders when you need to, whatever it is. So it's like they're meant to follow these traditional rules and these traditional molds and stuff, but then you know, she's kind of like cracking throughout of it.
And it's no different than how it is today, right? Like, oh my God. And it's no different how it is today because, like, for example, growing up, I remember kids in my school, like girls too, like it's still the case where girls are gifted kitchen accessories, like little mini kitchens, little mini stoves, and little mini dishes, and then boys are gifted the construction hammers and the Bob the Builder blocks and action figure toys. So it's either action figures to replicate battle and warriorship and just warrior spirit, and like these kids go and they, you know, sign up for the army in the future, and then the kids who are focused on construction, like they become handymen and they become plumbers and they become construction workers, and it's literally the same thing. It's just changed to cater the current zeitgeist and to cater what the world requires of them, but not the world, the 1% that was discussed before, because in this realm, everybody's role is in alignment with the best interest of a single person, which is the king.
Yeah.
And it's not even a small percentage of people, it's the king. So if the king declares that now every person is free and every person can build their own startup and their own business and you know, like they could build their own Facebook and shit, then he loses control of this like concentrated power and this concentrated hearsay.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, exactly.
But it's no different than today is my point. Like, it's still the same thing. And even the part about the fathers seeing the daughters, today more than ever, like, there's more influx of just like kids who don't really feel seen by their parents, and that's why they gravitate towards, I don't know, like towards like like famous people.
Yeah,
You know, like they
social
want to
media.
emulate something. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like seeking guidance from other outlets because their parents don't really again, like you have to be able to adapt, and I feel like you can't carry on traditions through generations there are values that you uphold, but then you also have to be flexible in ways to adapt to new ideas and new ways as well, you know?
I personally believe that you have to overcome your parents. You have to overcome them not in like a negative way or a confrontational competitive way, but I think that it's honorable for you to be able to be a valued successor, right? To be successful and full of success, to me means being a valuable successor in the lineage that you've been bestowed or you've been kind of like thrusted into, right? Because we don't get to choose our families, like we're just born into them. So I think that if you can overcome all of the inadequacies and you can reconcile all of these broken pieces within yourself, within your family lineage, and what we experience with hereditary, the consequences of neglecting that process of like individuation, that process of becoming aware and self-aware and healing yourself, it echoes through generations and generations within a lineage. And so I think that it's important for you to be able to overcome your parents, and it's important for you to be able to kind of like lead, like develop into a person who establishes new ideals and new values that use as a foundation the old ones, but builds on it, is my point. Like, don't just adapt the old ways and don't touch anything. It's like you use it as a foundation and you build a larger, more like beautiful, it doesn't have to be larger, but a more detailed, a more honorable, a more beautiful structure, you know?
I completely agree.
But yeah.
I can't say anything better than what you said.
Hey, why are you saying that?
Because it's true. I wanted to point out that the knight that got killed in the joust, that was Jon Arryn's squire.
What does that mean, squire?
I think squire is kind of like I think squire.
Can I Google that?
It's like someone.
I could just Google it really quick.
It's like a servant. It's like a servant that takes your orders a little. Like I don't know.
He's like a waiter.
Yeah, exactly.
It says here, squire, a man of high social standing who owns and lives on an estate in a rural area, especially the chief landowner in such an area. A young nobleman acting as an attendant to a knight before becoming a knight himself.
Oh, see?
So he became he became a knight.
Yes, but he was the hand's squire.
So basically,
and they killed him.
Yeah.
So what if he had known something?
What if they chose this mountain character because this mountain character is like unbeatable, right? Because he's a freaking mountain.
Freaking burned his brother's face.
Yeah.
Poor guy.
Yeah. But basically what you're saying is like, what if they took the garbage out publicly so that there's no speculation of a further conspiracy of them trying to kill the squire? It's like first the hand of the king, and then the squire of the hand of the king is now dead. But then they're going to chalk it up as like, oh, like this was just a sports accident.
Exactly.
It's just a noble death. Because
I was like, the connection is so... It's so random, but it's not random, you know?
They were clearly outmatched, too. Like, you see the mountain mounted on his horse. His horse is literally the size of the rider and the horse.
Yeah.
And then you have the mountain on top of the horse.
Oh, my gosh.
And it was like this, like, ogre of a human, this huge, giant human, and this small little... like frail guy who was like counting his steps too, like he was trying to like prepare for the whole thing, and he's like trying to strategize against it. But then that's also another telling thing, is that we preoccupy ourselves so much with the anticipation of the act that usually it's like it doesn't really matter because it's in the moment that counts. It's like it's how you do everything in the moment. It doesn't matter if you prepare, if you count how many inches or yards or whatever it is, you know?
Yeah,
like
it
there's
is.
no strategy.
But then I was gonna say the poor horse, that horse with the mountain.
Oh yeah.
With the mountain on top.
But the horse is a big boy, so he gets like a few protein shakes, I feel.
Damn, that's a strong horse. I mean, the last thing that I want to say to wrap up this episode, because it's called Cripples, Bastards, and Broken Things, is that the thing that I feel like I took away from this episode is the idea that the people that are seemingly broken, in the eyes of society, they are judged as being lesser than or unworthy, which we see as being Tyrion and Sam and Bran, etc. But everyone and Jon, they are the ones that hold the true potential for something greater, that they have this underlying value. And I feel like that is why this episode is important. It's meant for us to turn our eyes to the people that we would otherwise turn our eyes away from.
The underdogs, the outcasts, the underestimated from day one type of characters are the ones that because they're the ones capable of creeping up behind the throne kind of undetected even, you know? It's kind of like you don't see them as a visible threat because of their lack of title, because of their physical deformation, because of their presentation. Like you don't see them as a threat. And so like that makes a lot of sense, especially when you compare these outcast characters to say like a Jaime Lannister figure, you know, who's completely like the poster boy of his flag, like the poster boy of the Lannisters, you know?
And I think it's the idea too of like the meek shall inherit the earth. Like the last shall be first. And so it's kind of like
bars right there. She just like brushed it off and
hey.
and she's like,
it's kind of, I'm tired too. I had a long we've been up since 4:30 a.m.
We went to the gym early in the morning.
But anyways,
went on a walk.
I know.
On a run with the dog with Shadow.
We had an eventful day. Anyways, to my point is that I think that the meek shall inherit the earth. What was I gonna say? Give me 1 second.
Yeah, take your time.
Just to, like jog my thoughts.
While you're thinking, I'm just gonna share that I saw this video, this old classroom video of Steve Jobs. He was giving a lecture, I believe, at a university. And then he was asked a very good question, and he even said, like, that's a very good question. And then he took a pause, and he just, like, sat for, like, a full minute in silence.
Yeah, I saw that video.
And he was just, like, thinking deep in thought, and then he gave them an answer. And so that's literally, like, a masterclass in being able to control your tempo and not be uncomfortable with silence. Like, silence is something that we should be, that we should value. But yeah, go.
You broke the silence.
I broke the silence. I broke the silence because I want to eat. I'm hungry. I want to eat
I
and
made
sleep.
you a chicken sandwich before we started.
Hey, just one doesn't do anything for me, man. I'm a big boy. I need at least 5 of those, or 6 or 7 or 8.
Oh my gosh. Okay, I'll make you food after. Thank you. But what I was gonna say is that it's going to be really interesting because we see Jon and Sam already forming a connection, and we see that Tyrion and Jon formed a connection, and Bran and Tyrion was able to show like an empathy towards Bran and stuff. And I think that it's this idea that they all have this connected understanding of what it feels like to be marginalized and what it feels like to be outcasted, just like you were saying. And so they can like resonate with one another. And I feel like there's going to be power in unity, in numbers. And that's what we see. It's like when Jon tells the other men of the Night's Watch, like, we need, like, Sam is just one of us. And then they go and threaten that guy in his sleep who was being an a-hole. And then now he's but he backs off. Like, there is power in numbers of even the people who are deemed of lowest value, which is these criminals who are sent to the Night's Watch, but they come together in numbers and they protect each other, and that's what we see. There's this camaraderie, there's this brotherhood, and so that reflects to anybody, to anywhere. It's like when there's not just power in numbers, but there's this deep bond and connection in the powers, in the numbers, then the cause and the purpose gets pushed forward more.
Right. And they only create a strong brotherhood and a strong connection and friendship and bond if it's formed through humanity, right? It's like that's what Jon did with his short time on the wall, is that you have this general guy who's trying to force them to beat each other up and forcing them to be strong and cold and calculated and warriors and no emotions and no humanity. And then Jon comes and he says, hold on a minute, like, come on, guys. Like, let's all just, like, you know, like, look, Tarly's fat and he's slow and he's scared, but listen, like, you know, like, weren't you scared and weren't you fat once before you went on the weight loss and you got into the gym? It's like, it's like he's the redemptive kind of like link and element on that wall that's reminding everybody of a shared humanity, a shared collection of like vulnerabilities and collections of broken pieces, whereas everybody else is just overwhelmed and probably intimidated with the commander guy on the wall. I have to remember his name. But the commander guy, like, they're intimidated with the task of being so kind of on the edge of the world, which is essentially where they're at, or on the edge of the known world, of the known conquered realms.
Yeah.
And I think it's the shared humanity, just like you said. And there is empowerment in numbers, especially when you're connected and bonded through vulnerability and through being human.
Yeah.
Versus through titles and orders. And, you know, like, I think that there's a difference. And it would be cool if we could see all of the marginalized characters kind of like form an alliance. Like, that would be interesting.
Exactly. And then think about this too. Sam didn't have a choice, right? Like, he really didn't have a choice. It was literally go to the wall or die.
Most of them, right?
Yeah, and so they have that all in common. It's like they all have the rejection in common, and so they can choose to not reject each other.
Yeah.
You know, like, they can choose to accept each other. They could choose to be there for each other, and like that's more honorable.
Yeah. It's just like that old proverb too that says that if you're in hell, then you might as well just dance with the devil, or you, like, if you find yourself in hell, then you might as well just like hug the devil and like make friends with the devil.
Yeah.
Because you're already in hell, like, you're already on the wall. So what are you gonna do? Are you gonna cry about it? Are you gonna be depressed? Are you gonna jump off the wall, or are you just gonna look to your side and to your left and to your right and see other men like around you, the same age as you, who look like you do, kind of, we all kind of share a lot of things in common, and then they come to find out in the harshness of winter, in the harshness of those conditions, which it's still summer actually, so the harshness of the snow and the cold, they bond together and they find warmth within each other reflected on each other. You get what I'm saying? It's like warmth is within, it's through the connection, and that's what they find, and that's what they have to find.
Yeah.
Because they have to find something.
Yeah, and then the irony is that the wall could either serve as a refuge or a prison. So it just depends on your framing of mind. So you can act like it's a prison, and it'll make you this hostile and aggressive and whatever person, just like the other guy who was like, I'm gonna cut me a slice of bacon and stuff. It's like pinning each other against each other. Or it could be a refuge. It's like it saved most of them from being castrated, from being killed, from being whatever it was, and now they can treat it as like this refuge where they come together, and they can also seek a form of like spiritual redemption in a way, like serving a greater purpose together, where they protect the realms from whatever's beyond the wall.
Yes.
You know, and so there's that whole thing. And then the last thing I wanted to say, this like the very last thing, is that I've been like taking a note on like Tyrion's character and stuff, and he uses like a lot of like humor and sharp wit and like intellect and stuff. But what's interesting is that a lot of humor specifically. Like so far, he's been the one who has like the most kind of like humorous
Sense
lines.
of humor.
Yeah. And I thought that what's interesting is that in Shakespeare, the fools are usually the ones that mask the truth behind humor.
Yes,
And
yes,
so
yes.
that's exactly what he does. And I
Mhm.
thought that that was interesting because it's the fools who are the wisest ones.
And we even talked about this in one of our reactions. I'm not sure if it was during the Game of Thrones one. Maybe it was a different movie. But essentially in tarot, right? In like tarot cards and in like witchcraft too. Like the Fool is considered the most powerful card of the deck by many like ways of looking at it.
Yeah.
Because the Fool is the one who's not afraid to make mistakes and to learn.
Mhm.
So while all the other cards are like kind of, find themselves in this box of title and in this box of label, and they're basically made to manifest that specific title, and
Mhm.
the Fool is the one that. But then it's also interesting how back in the day, right, many kings would only be open because of their vanity and because of their sense of pride and bravado and ego and sheer ego. They could only receive the harsh truths if it was through the Fool and the court jester. And that's why the king would keep the court jester, because the court jester would keep everything in balance, kind of. And then even in front of the people and the people of the kingdom, like when everybody was collected in the palace of the king, for example, the court jester would do his work and would relay all of the deep kind of hidden truths of the kingdom that everybody neglects or everybody's been curious about in a form of joke that would neutralize its weight.
Yeah.
But still inform everybody, especially like even the king.
Like chip away at the gravity of it. Yeah.
And it's also good for good for morale too, because it humanizes the king. So that was another thing too, that they would allow the jester up until a certain extent. Obviously, like you can't disrespect the king outrightly, but they would allow the jester to make jokes and poke holes in the king's rule and in the king's image, and that would make or enhance, ironically, the likability of that king, because it makes him vulnerable and it humanizes him.
Yeah.
But
Yeah. That makes a lot of sense. No, it does. Like it does make a lot of sense. But I don't think that I don't think it's been the case in this case, like with Robert and his like entertainment and stuff. With the jousting. Well, I think it has. It seems like he has the favor of the people, but
Robert Baratheon?
King Robert, yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know. I'm just
tired?
like, yeah.
Yeah,
I
me
feel
too.
like I'm done. I'm done.
I was about to sneeze, and that's why I was like, catch myself. I was like, am I going to sneeze right now? You guys haven't seen me sneeze on camera yet, which is a big spectacle, by the way, because it's usually,
yeah, I get like a heart attack. I'm like, ah.
And it's funny because I learned how to sneeze from my mom, which is weird, because my mom sneezes super loud, and she's done that all her life. And then instinctively, I would just, obviously, if I'm in public or if I'm, in class in high school, I sneeze normally. But in the house, I always just like,
No, that's me with hiccups. Except I can't control it no matter where I am. Like I remember as I remember as a kid in church, like I got hiccups in the middle of church, and it was not going away.
Oh no!
And it's funny because my point is that I just started doing it that way, strangely enough, because of my dad. But then also, like, I can't control it. Like, it's just the way it comes out. So I don't know.
Yeah.
But then I also found out that he has a condition that makes him hiccup that way.
Oh, it's an actual condition?
Yeah, he does.
What's it called?
I don't know. It's like a tracheal thing.
It's called a bill.
It's called
a bill condition.
Bill.
Oh, my ears.
That's
And
how
you do it loud too,
and
you do
it's
it sharp.
nonstop. Like you can't stop it. I could drink water. You always tell me take sips of water.
Yeah. Yeah, that's how I sound. Like I always sound like that when I'm worried and concerned for her well-being. I'm sorry. Touch me, dude. Ah. You guys are seeing, right? Like when you're like, you should drink some water. Are you okay? Do you want some water? And then you're like, oh, you want some water?
No, I'm saying it because at this point, so obvious that the water don't be helping me.
Yeah, I don't think I've ever been able to successfully get rid of hiccups.
You
when
get
I
a
wanted.
pack of sugar, you open it, you just swallow it.
Yeah, that's too much work.
That actually does help.
I heard that you just take a big gulp of water,
No.
and then you hold your breath for like 10 seconds, and then it goes away, but it never works.
It won't. Or you could do the old trick of the like scare them, you know, give them like ah.
I just gotta look in the mirror.
If you have hiccups right now, I just scared you. I just scared you out of them. Anyways, we're towards the end of the video.
Yeah, we're gonna end the video here, guys.
Yes.
This video might be a little shorter. I'm not sure, but special thank you to everybody who stuck around up until this point. Do we throw an additional word too? Like it's about the same size as all the other ones. Do we give a word also? Because we've noticed that you guys have been leaving the other words of each episode. Yeah. Like dance with me, for example.
Needle.
The word. It always has to be tailored to this episode, right? So let's take a moment before this clock runs out. Not too long, but let's think. Like, what's a thing that was really, really
Horses.
Horse lord. No, horses. Right?
No, I'm not. Scratch that.
No?
No. If you call me horses, then I know you didn't stick around.
You like cut off right
You're
here.
like horses.
You're like horses. No, wait, hold on. It has to be more creative. It can't just be horses. Horses is so bland. Man.
Brokenness. No, this is gonna be too difficult. I was gonna say brokenness is a strength, but that's gonna be too hard. I think.
Mm-hmm.
You come up. You're better at these.
Guys.
Hurry up! The timer.
Oh my God! What do we do?
I don't know. I'm bad at this.
Oh, okay. Oh my God, guys. Jesus.
Oh, just find a quote that they said. What's a quote that they said?
Two minds think better than one, they say. Riding dragons.
Little birds.
Little birds everywhere.
Just little birds. I don't know.
Put this. Little birds everywhere. That's the definitive statement because we're going to close out, okay?
Okay, little birds everywhere.
Little birds everywhere. If you watched the whole thing, if you enjoyed it, let us know below in the comments your opinions. And don't forget to like if you enjoy this type of content. If you've been enjoying the whole series thus far, expect more videos this week. We will be recording the next episode tomorrow already. Everything available early access on Patreon. And yeah, with that being said, thank you so much. And do you have anything else?
No, thanks.
And with that being said, don't forget that it's never wrong
to be mentally gone. Peace to the world.
I have to eat and sleep. Goodbye, guys.